again, when I say extremists, I'm talking about Hasan and people like Hasan. I'm talking about Mike from PA and people like Mike from PA. I'm talking about that kind of wing of party who thinks it, like, who have advocate the
Okay.
people who are firebombing Teslas,
Well,
I should say,
okay.
the people who are shooting at Trump,
Well,
right?
can I ask
people
you-
who are
Actual
right
extremists that
advocating
matters?
or
Wait,
making
Wick,
jokes
this is
about that,
important. Wick,
right?
this is
And I
really
want to come back
important.
to that in a second.
You
What
have
happened? Yeah,
to
go ahead.
name an extremist that's important. Like, for instance, Luigi. That's a extremist that killed somebody who, you know, did an instance of what people could describe as actual terrorism. Nobody knows who Mike from Couch is, okay? Nobody cares.
Yeah, let's go ahead and get started. So yeah, I actually want to give credit though to Wick because he inspired me for this panel this week when I was watching him and Visora have their one-on-one chat, and I was very interesting to me because I have been saying that I thought the reason the Dems lost for a while, a big portion of it was pretty much everything opposite of what she said, which I was like, I think the manipulation was bad. I think that the like acting like too uppity or too like condescending to people and all this was a major issue. It was a big reason why the Dems lost. However, it didn't seem like that was her take. And I wanted to see, and so it inspired me to ask the rest of my not me, but my friends that are lefties here, what they thought their reasoning was, and really dive into it. So I got my friends here together today, and I guess we'll start with Tyler here. Tell us who you are, what you do, and give me your intro and what you think.
Oh, average debate enjoyer. I'm here to debate, and I ain't got no condoms. I don't know. I just think the Democratic Party's kind of in shambles right now. They're taking the few wins that they have, like Signalgate and certain things of that nature. Garcia, the Maryland man, and all this, and they're running way too far with it. They're turning that dead horse into IKEA meatballs, and pretty much anything else is just the party flailing and the worst people in the party gaining traction. AOC is the top-ranked Democrat right now, and she represents a lot of things that most voters hate. And I got a ton of polling data to show that, so I'm gonna get into all that.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Nina.
Yes, I was really interested to have this conversation because I think right now the Democratic Party is trying to find where its identity, I guess. Like, I think that a lot of ideas are coming out right now, but we're not really together on anything. So we're kind of in a transition zone. I know that's kind of a boring answer, but that's why I'm excited to have a conversation with everyone else here to see kind of what your guys' thoughts are on this. It seems like there are a lot of good positions. I actually would take the AOC position. That I think that she's doing a really good job getting out there. I think that Bernie's doing a really good job by like kind of boosting up her profile because he's kind of waning. She's being then brought up with all of that. Not only that, but she's also getting obviously experience doing all this stuff. And I think that like it's kind of like weird mentorship, right? Or not weird, but like a mentorship. And I think that's really important to be doing more. That's something why I support like having like maybe like age limits because it promotes stuff like that. Because Bernie knows he's not gonna be able to do this forever. So promoting voices like that I think is really important. But in terms of just like the whole party, I don't think that we really kind of know where we're at right now. So we're trying a bunch of different things, and I think that's a really good thing because clearly we saw that what we were doing before absolutely was not working, and we got Trump because of it. So definitely excited to see what's going to happen.
Fantastic. Hope to hear more. Shenandoah.
Yep. Hello. My name's Chairman Shenandoah. I stream on Twitch, and like fucking every single time I'm on a debate panel, I'm a huge dork, and I always fucking pre-write my opening statements. So I'm just gonna get into it. In today's America, perception beats policy, and the Republican Party understands this far better than Democrats do. Even when Democrats are right on the issues, they're losing the information war because they no longer control the media outlets that direct the narrative. From Fox News to TikTok, right-wing voices dominate the platforms where voters form impressions regardless of facts. The result? A public that distrusts material progress, misinterprets democratic policy, and remains indifferent or confused about key issues like trans rights or race. Add to that weak, uninspiring leadership at the top of the ticket, and it's no surprise Democrats underperform against what are, in my opinion, objectively terrible candidates. If Democrats want to win again, they need to stop assuming policy speaks for itself and start fighting, especially for the narrative. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Soy Pill.
Yeah, hi. I'm the Soy Pill. I make video essays. I pretty much narrowed it down to two main things. One, I think that Joe Biden dropping out and Kamala Harris being replaced or replacing him was one of the biggest issues. She was quite unpopular in the primary. She did not have a lot of time to present herself. And she said that she would deviate not at all from Joe Biden's policies, which means that you're now the incumbent fighting against every negative thing that has happened in the last 4 years. Unfortunately, the things that she would change, child tax credits, home buyers tax credits, abortion policies, just even if they are popular policies, were not marketed well. And I kind of agree with Shenandoah. This is a media issue where it doesn't matter how good your policies are if you don't reach out. They were playing incredibly safe. They were vetting all of these different podcasters, influencers to an absurd degree, to the point where the only people that they could get on were very, very, very highly vetted, narrow people that no one really watched, like the Call Her Daddy or whatever it was. And as a result, the DNC right now is reaching out to more influencers and kind of caring a lot less about the fact that, hey, maybe we shouldn't vet people to this extreme degree, because it matters how many people we talk to, and we can't play 2016 civility politics. And finally, I think that they played it too safe, in the sense that the biggest upswing of their polling was when they were attacking Trump, calling them weird and calling out all their ridiculous policies. And voters just did not understand how bad Trump would be for the country. You can see this with people Googling tariffs after tariffs get implemented. You can see it with every other policy that Trump's implementing that no one really understood the implications of, because the Kamala campaign failed to explore just how bad it would be. I think they just had a terrible, terrible messaging problem combined with a not so great candidate.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Wick.
So I think the question can be taken in a couple different ways. There's the question of, why did we lose this election, meaning the 2024 election, and that's fair to discuss. But I think the more interesting question is, why have Dems been losing ground in general? And I think there are two different answers here. They're related, obviously, but I do think that they're different. I think one of the problems that Democrats and the left in general has had over the last few years, and why they have lost people starting, again, lifelong Democrats starting from 2016 that have been abandoning the party, has because they have become the not fun party, the anti-fun party. They are the ones that will scold you, right, if you say a no word. They're the ones that will take you to task if you have offended someone's sensibilities and things like that. And look, I understand that sometimes you have to be a little bit of a scold, but at the same time, what you have done is, a lot of people in the Democratic Party, we let the craziest among us snatch the microphone and lead the charge. And you have people saying unhinged shit that weren't in any real positions of leadership and power, but they were taken as the voice of the Democrats. And the right did a very good job of painting all Democrats with that crazy broad brush. And we just didn't push back enough, and we didn't fight back enough against that part. People need to see us policing our own more. People need to see us standing up against the excesses of the left side. One of my fears going into this is that we're going to learn the wrong lessons, and we're going to think, like I think two of the people who've said before me, like, oh, we just need to fight more. We just need to go more unhinged. We just need to do more unhinged shit. And I think that's a recipe for disaster. What gives me hope is that I am watching the right fall into many of the same traps that the Dems did back in 2016 to the present. With the rise of the quote unquote woke right and the little civil war that they're having within now, I am seeing that the right is beginning to dabble with a lot of the same tools that the more extreme Dems used, that led to their electoral defeat, or was one of the major factors that led to their electoral defeat. And we'll see how that plays out. Long-winded answer, I know, but here you go. That's my answer.
Well, thank you so much. And Mr. Burns.
I missed the questions. The question just why the Democrats lost.
And then kind of like the state of the party going forward. What do we think's going on?
That's
How do we feel about it?
It's pretty broad, but As for why the Democrats lost, I mean, we should have had a primary. I think this is something that should be forced now, whether we have an incumbent or not. We should have a forced primary. If it means that our current incumbent is put under pressure, good. Maybe you should sharpen them a little bit. I think that it also is an opportunity to not only show the presidential candidate, but also other potential candidates for when there's going to be somebody else running in 4 years. The Democrat can run an incumbent primary different than another primary if they really wanted to like splice the hairs. If there's some way to fudge it in there, you could make it so, 50% of all donated primary votes go to the general election candidate, or they could make some way to make themselves feel better about it. But having this process as a safety net to check in if we're going to keep appointing people who in many households are looking at assisted living due to the age at that where they're getting. I mean, I'm not trying to be ageist. I'm not trying to be mean. I'm just saying that if your presidential candidate can't go through a primary, then they shouldn't be your presidential candidate. And having this check, I think, would be positive, honestly. And if the Republicans don't have it, then the Republicans don't have it. And I think we can still make it into an advantage. I also believe that Harris, as many other people have said here, was not somebody who was put through this process. And so not only did it, by avoiding a primary, we didn't get to check on Biden, but we also didn't get to sharpen a potential replacement or have them go through that process. I understand this, if, shoulda, coulda, woulda, but, that's what it is. As for Harris herself, she didn't have any transformative ideas. And I'm not trying to be mean. I'm not saying she didn't have any good ideas. What I mean by transformative ideas is that the way Trump talks versus the way Harris talks, Harris will go out there and say, we're going to give you first-time home buyers a $25,000 tax credit to put towards your first home. Oh my goodness, isn't that great? And then you go over to Trump and he says, I'm going to build. We're going to build. It's going to be cheap. It's going to be cheap. It's going to be cheap, easy, build. We're going to build. It's going to be cheap. And this easy delivery is a lot less policy wonky, and it's something that's also like birdshot. It hits everybody because build cheap, that helps everybody. If you're the construction worker, it helps you. If you're the person getting the house, it helps you. If the person profiting off the building, helps you. When you listen to Harris, $25,000 down payment for first-time home buyers. If you are going to be a renter in 5 years, well, then that doesn't help you. If you're somebody who's buying their second home, well, that also doesn't help you. And so the policy wonkery leading forward on the message, I understand it might be good for you and me to go, ooh and ah, look how policy wonk this is, how this is going to fed the GDP that way or this way. But most people don't listen to campaigns that way. And I think that when you have a limited time frame to deliver your message to the people, you basically need to be going like, hey, we have 90 days to deliver the message. It should be like baby's first footsteps, kind of a little bit. And not to be, don't talk down to the voter, but you need to be getting across, I think, a little bit more general messages. Past that, I also want to say that if you... I understand what Wick's trying to say when it comes to we need to check ourselves more, but I also don't believe that checking ourselves more really would have helped us at all in this election. Because in all the areas where we could have checked ourselves more, I don't see the Republicans letting up, and I don't think that's going to swing enough people in the key swing states. I mean, it might swing general vibes on the internet, but I don't know how much that's going to communicate to key states like Iowa or these other states. So I want to know, when you say, check our own more, are we talking about psychos on the internet, or are we talking about the people in the Harris campaign, and how does that communicate the votes? Because it's like one thing to say if we checked ourselves more, maybe that would, make vibe a little bit better, or it would get a few of the crazies out. But Hasan was kicked out of the DNC convention. Okay, he was booted out by the DNC. Vosh was kept away with a 10-foot pole. Other people, any plop streamer that could have said anything problematic in history about Israel, or anybody who could have said something that would have been like in a really controversial music video from Mr. Kanye West or something, all those types of people were kept away. And so is it just going to be like us checking like gender stuff more? Are we talking about like, oh well, if we're a little less crazy on the gender, or are we a little less crazy on the trans stuff? Because I don't think the Republicans are going to let up until we're out there disavowing, saying, you know what, we're gonna ban puberty blockers. You know what, we're going to ban X, Y, and Z. And if we don't get affirmative bans X, Y, and Z, Walsh is going to go out there and lie about the millions and millions of kids getting gender reassignment surgery, whether we make it say it's going to be 5 kids, 10 kids, 11 kids, no kids. He's going to say it's millions of kids anyway, until we are completely disavowing trans people as part of a demonic movement and punishing trans kids. So I understand, like, if somebody's going out there and say something crazy, but the Democrats, I think, dealt with most of like keeping the like crazies away, at least from Harris. So I mean, I don't know.
Well, I guess I'll just answer the question. But I think that, like, when I say police our own, what I mean is that it isn't so much the people who are saying, oh, we have this policy position, we're pushing for this policy position. I'm talking about the people who every time Trump spoke was like, he's Hitler. He's fucking Hitler. Look at him. He's Hitler. He's doing the Hitler shit. And we've been saying this since 2016.
What is he doing right now?
And eventually, people like, okay, we don't believe you anymore, right? The boy who cried wolf is a apt analogy for what happened. There was an actual wolf. Look, Trump was actually bad, but because we had been calling every single person a Nazi for 8 or more years, it became hard for people to believe us when we saw an actual wolf at the door. When we saw an actual wolf out the door.
You think it was that and not 5 years of lying about Joe Biden's decaying brain?
Wick, I actually have an honest question for you.
Nobody has. That's the actual trust issue with the Democratic Party. That nobody believes the
big
Democrats.
derailment of what we were talking about.
It's the messaging.
Yeah, that's not really a topic.
It's silly. I listen to you guys all say messaging is the problem. It's silly. You cannot message away an 80-20 issue like people don't want trans women in women's spaces. Like, this has been rejected by the people, and here you say, "Oh, we just need to message better," and they'll suddenly accept that men's and dresses are women.
I don't think Americans give a fuck, honestly.
I mean,
this is the leftism that's poisoning the party that you guys are backing up.
Wait, I'm a grillism.
Kamala didn't promote
No, you
this
didn't
at
listen to
all.
what I said. I said don't give a fuck. I didn't even say, hey, check your pronoun. I said don't give a fuck. I'm a griller.
Yeah.
Okay, so when we're talking about this issue, it's one thing to like say the American people have this view on the issue. It's another thing to say the American people are voting because of this issue. These are two different things. And when you poll people on these issues, they might give those answers. But you also poll people like, hey, do you think these issues are too politicized? Are we talking too much about trans people? Are we talking too much about trans? And well, people say overwhelmingly yes.
Yeah, I mean,
I have those polls.
just to jump in on there, Dylan.
I have those polls in my
trans issues are like 22 out of 22 on Gallup's list.
This is a problem. See what he did? See what he was able to do? We were having an actual productive discussion, and he's trans, and suddenly you all jumped.
About nothing. You guys are all wrong. You're saying messaging. Messaging can fix the party. All we have to do is message. Messaging. Hold on. Messaging was 5 years of lying about Biden tape. You cannot message your way out of lies.
Hold on, Tyler. All right, I'm gonna go to Shenandoah, but I then I'll speak to that. But I do want to say, like, I think that some of what he's saying kind of is true as like an outsider. I'm obviously not a Dem, right? But it does seem like there was some polling that indicated what that them message Trump put out was a big one. I feel like there is a large segment of people that are like moderates that like see themselves as religious, and I think that like that kind of hurts. But I mean, I don't know if it's a derailment. I do think that Wick kind of said something earlier as well. Is it seems like there's the extremism, and then like people want to double down on that versus like, you know, kind of what he advocated for. There just seemed to be a kind of a discourse between the people even here. I would even say
moderation.
Yeah, versus moderation. But I would say even then, like what Tyler's saying kind of falls in that camp. He's saying it's too extreme. You know, we need to go more moderate. I don't know. Let's go to Shenandoah here.
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, I'll just say my position. I'm actually fairly moderate within the Democratic Party itself. Like, I would probably say I'm more on the right-ish wing of the Democratic Party. And I often call myself a liberal and not a leftist for that reason, because I don't really entirely feel like I totally mesh with that. I believe that the Democrats should fight and be more militant, but I don't think that necessarily entails that they have to go all the way to the left or something like that. I think like being tough and like being willing to actually stand up for yourself and have some integrity would actually help some fucking Democrats win, even if those Democrats are like relatively milquetoast in terms of their political views. And I think that's the kind of leadership we need in the party right now. That's what I would like to see. And as I understand it, a lot of Democrats agree with me. There's, if I recall correctly, some poll taken shortly after Trump won, where the majority of Democrats said that they wanted Democrats to fight more and become more moderate. And that's kind of my feeling as well, to be honest with you.
It's about 2
Can I
1
ask
at the
you a
Harvard
question,
Harris.
Tyler?
April. Yeah.
Oh, not me. Fuck.
Well, Tyler, I
Okay.
mean, like if anything, I feel like you're kind of like you were arguing with Wick about this, but I think this is kind of proving his point. And I think Wick tried to point this out, which is, you know, you can say, oh, this trans issue was really unpopular. Look at its 80-20, and the fact that Kamala barely talked about this at all. And first of all, gained numbers in the LGBT demographic. That's one of the few that she actually gained numbers in. And second of all, you will look at the right wing and how much they thought it was a big deal versus how much the left wing thought it was a big deal. And yeah, you're right. If you just talk about it nonstop, as the right wing was doing compared to her campaign, it plays really well. It's like that they, them, she's for they, them ad like worked really well. The, hey, look how woke the military ad, it played really well. But unfortunately, and Dylan is right, like most people don't care about this. It's just, if you just keep talking about it and pretend like it's a big issue, people are going to jump on board.
It's not. I have the exit polling. About 80% of the vote took this into consideration when they voted. On top of that, I can show you the polling. People are for liberal
That doesn't
values.
contradict what I said.
Yeah, people did put this into their voting. It's a top 10 issue this cycle, more so than abortion was. If you look at the top 10 issues,
the messaging, right?
Yeah. So what the Democrats need to focus on, what Shenandoah was saying, is different topics. Healthcare prices. Healthcare prices are their number one well. This is how Democrats get votes. This is how Obama won. This is how all of the new Democrat old school parties won. When Joe Biden was on stage against 12 progressives, the guy with dementia beat 12 progressives and won. The last person and only person to beat Trump was an old school beer drinking Democrat, not somebody that surrendered their party over to academia and completely shot the working class voter in the foot.
Okay, I don't think that contradicts what I was saying, though.
No, I'm just kind of.
I don't even disagree with what you just said. I'm just saying the messaging of, hey, if we just blow this trans issue up on the right or on the left, like clearly plays well with the right. I don't think the left did it.
It's a majority that
It's
don't
a
want it.
fundraiser. I don't think it's a
Sure,
vote getter. I think there's a difference between a fundraiser and a vote getter. And that's what I think the trans issue is for the right wing, is it made them fundraise a lot of money, which maybe helped them with other ad space and stuff like that. But I don't think it flipped people. I really don't.
Yeah, I actually do want to say that, as like, this is at least just my poll, and it might just contradict yours. I know that sometimes polls come out weird, but at least according to Gallup, trans issues were like the least important issue according to most Americans. They ranked 22 out of 22 things that they considered.
It was the economy, right?
And the economy was
The
by
top
far
one?
number one.
Is that an
by
exit
mile.
poll or was it an issue poll?
I think it was an issue poll, but
I'm going with the exit poll.
we have to
Right
look
after
at it
people
again.
vote, they answer the exit poll and say, this is why I voted. I have one specifically in my document about that, and then I have 3 different polls. One of them showing it's a 79 to 18 issue. Even most Democrats don't want trans women in women's spaces.
Let me.
I just don't think people care that much. Like, honestly.
Okay.
Let me.
They might not care that much about this issue, but if you have 18 other issues that you see them lying to you about, and they all start to add up, your integrity goes down as a party.
Lying to you.
Yeah,
Like Joe Biden's age.
Let me expand a little bit. The Joe Biden's age. I want to add like a couple others. I know that I've talked to some people that voted Republican this time that were like old school Democrats, and they basically said they felt like they had to vote Republican because they were like white males, and they basically are super ultra left on everything else, right? They're like gay white guys, and they're all like, "Hey, I voted Republican because we felt like there's no place for us in the party as white men." I feel like that's kind of another extremist kind of thing that seems to be something that's pushed some people out along with the trans. Now, I don't know what kind of margin, but do y'all see anything along those lines as well, or no?
That plays directly into the media narrative thing. Like, if
Yeah,
you
that's what I
actually
was gonna
spend
say.
any time in these left-wing circles, there's really, like, the worst thing you'll ever see is a college campus might be like, hey, if you're talking about this POC issue, maybe a POC should talk about it, that sort of thing. And yeah, you get some crazies here and there, but the idea that the Democratic Party is not for white men is so ridiculous. And yet it is a very strong narrative on the right wing. And I see a lot of people believe it because of the right wing messaging. They're just much better at saying, hey, they don't give a shit about you because you're a white male. And just to take a step back from all this, I mean, with trans issue, white men issue, any of these identity politics things, what's really interesting is you don't see this as, oh, the right wing dominated this election. I mean, they did have a much better media game. That's true. But I mean, mean, from 2020 to 2024, it's 20 million fewer people voted for Democrats, and Trump gained like 2 or 3 million votes. It wasn't like, a bunch of people became right wing. There was
But a lot of
swing
people
for
did
sure.
stay
It's a
home.
bunch of people staying
Yeah.
home. And I think that does speak
Right.
more, at least to a little bit, to Tyler's point of, yeah, people were just like, well, I don't think anything's going to fucking change. You're not talking to me about my working, life changing. You're not talking to me about my
Right.
healthcare prices changing. You're talking about, at least at some point, doing nothing different. And then maybe, like Dylan said, doing a few things that might help very specific people in this very specific situation. Even the child tax credit, which is going to help anyone who has a kid, was not really spoken to many people in a way that I think was, reach them. And yet now Trump is saying, oh, we'll give you $5,000 for having a child. And I can immediately see how much more that is boosted in the media versus, actually technically more money to the same people. It was not presented the same way.
One of the problems I think that you're hitting at, and one of the reasons I would posit that a lot of people did stay home, and a lot of, frankly, it wasn't the leftists that stayed home. It wasn't the lifelong Dems, the people who were like pretty progressive. It wasn't them. It was the moderates. The moderates stayed home because the moderates, for whatever reason, couldn't discern a difference between Trump and Kamala Harris. And you could that there's a lot of reasons for that, and that's a failure of the Harris campaign. That's a failure of Democratic messaging. Harris not going they were very, very they played it too safe. The Harris campaign. They weren't willing to take risks. They tried not to piss anyone off, and that pissed everyone off to an extent, right?
Wait, wouldn't that appeal to the moderates though?
She didn't.
I'm a little
She won
confused on that.
independent.
Hold on, if I may finish. This is what you just said, Nina, right? It is kind of indicative of what a lot of progressives think as moderate. Like, they appealed to the moderate voice in a way that a young progressive thinks a moderate thinks, right? It's like asking someone who's 80 years old to appeal to the kids. They're not going to do it correctly. It's not going to come off as authentic. It's going to be pretty bad. It's going to be pretty poorly done. And that's
Right, but in my experience, I feel like moderates tend to be like more voting along party lines. I don't know. Is that actually statistically true? I don't know the numbers on that. That just doesn't seem like that would make sense to me.
She won independents. Moderates got off the fence. That's why for the first time in 100 years, we see more registered Republicans than Democrats. Moderates made their choice, and they made their choice for Trump in a large way.
Well, moderates mostly stayed home.
No, moderate Democrats, right?
Moderate Democrats.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Left.
I thought you were talking about moderate independents. My bad. That is misunderstanding.
No.
Yeah,
Okay.
I do think why a lot of moderates stayed home is just as Soypil said in his opening statement, she did not distance herself sufficiently from Biden, and a lot of people also just didn't feel like, hey, this is going to be a really great change. A lot of Democrats were also kind of disappointed with the Biden administration. Some were happy, but it's like the fucking R neoliberal guy, who you fucking never get to talk to except on the internet. Most people were like, at best. And I also just think that Kamala, unfortunately, she just didn't really have that chutzpah of a strong leader. As a lot of people have said, she's played it too safe. They shut down the weird thing that Waltz did, and it's that should have been fucking drilled into hell. You know what I mean? That was strong. That worked.
I have
absolutely.
citations that refute this thing about the
wait, hold on. When you say the weird thing, were you talking about that guy's weird? When they were talking about Vance?
Yeah, when they were referring to Vance and stuff, right?
We're going off of vibes.
Yeah.
I'm going off of data here, guys. I'm looking at all this shit here. The Democratic Party right now in 4 polls is under 30% approval rating. If the election were held today,
it is
Trump
vibes.
would still win. Trump would still win an election right now with the economy in the shitter.
What does that have to do with what Shenandoah just said?
Well,
That's telling you the party. I didn't disagree with him.
I still think leadership in the Democrats are weak.
Well, and let's be clear. I think that Soypil said something earlier that's just true. The Democrats didn't get shellacked, right? The Democrats actually, we lost by very, very thin margin. If
400,000 votes
in 3 states, we would be praising Chairman, President-elect, Dictator for Life Harris right now, right?
And Elizabeth Warren would have won.
Communist revolution, but he so this idea that people really loved Trump. There are people who really love Trump, right? Don't get me wrong, right? But the American public were like, yeah, I guess it's Trump this time. Now let's look at the polls today, and you can see people fleeing from Trump, right? The American public is fleeing from Trump and his positions. I'm looking at this data right now from Nate Silver, from his Silver report, right, which tracks stuff. Net approval on immigration is negative 2% from the start, right? Like it was 7% on January 21st that approved of his immigration platform. And now it's negative 2%. If we look at trade when he first took office was negative 2%, January 21st, 2025. It's now negative 17.7%. If you look at the economy where he was up, he had 6% approval, right? It's now at negative 13.5%. And inflation, which was negative 6%, is now at negative 24.7%. Across all these big issues that Americans care about, they are fleeing. Even his best issue, immigration, he's underwater currently on that. That's just the data.
Yeah,
so let's talk about the data.
If you pick the least accurate aggregate from last election and you ignore the most popular aggregate,
we can go on to
look at the most popular aggregate. No, we can go to the most popular aggregate or the closest aggregate from last election and see Trump is overwater in immigration. These two anecdotes that were unpopular are getting behind the mirror, and then people are going back.
In that aggregate, is he more popular with immigration or less popular when he
right now? He's less, but he's got 4 polls in a row.
On the economy, in your data, is he more popular or less popular when he took office?
What does Trump have to do with the state of the Democratic Party?
3 months ago, please? That'd be more fair.
What does Trump have to do with this? I knew this was going to turn into a whataboutism about Trump the whole time. Nobody believes Democrats because they lied about Joe Biden.
I mean, even Joe Rogan
anybody in there
negative towards immigration policy.
It doesn't matter if they're negative toward it. This is a microcosm of this is a small snapshot in time. The economy's fucking went through the roof today. Trump just signed a trade deal with one of the 6 biggest economy in the world. We have 40 trade deals on deck, 17 of them about to be signed.
What was it?
Did you watch it this morning?
No, I'm asking you if you know.
Yes.
Just to be clear, like
I'm not here to take a fucking pop quiz. I'm not here to take a pop quiz. I'm here to educate you.
Okay, so you don't know.
You can save your 101 questions for after I'm done speaking. But I'm here to educate you on a broader issue here. Nobody trusts Democrats. You cannot continue to just gaslight and lie to the public and expect people to believe you.
So actually, that's a fun segue into what I wanted to go into. Like, so Rick, on your show, like just recently, you literally saw Visora advocate for more. And I mean, I'm not like panning all doing this, but I do think she represents at least a segment that like kind of
a socialist. She's not a Democrat.
Sure, whatever. But she's on the left, and I feel like she would vote Biden. Probably voted Biden if she was here, not in Australia. But I feel like there's a few people I've seen that on the left that have also echoed similar statements about like, hey, we need to like lead people, we need to manipulate them, we need to like gaslight them. And I think that like the Biden thing is a microcosm of that.
I don't disagree.
Do you think
that people don't trust the Democratic Party?
Sure,
that's true.
Sure. Well, what I'm saying is, how much do y'all think that's a problem going forward, and how do you earn people's trust back? Because I think that is a bigger, like I think it is a big issue.
That's a good question. How do we earn the public's trust back? But I think that the Democrats should earn the public's trust back by simply being honest. Like, hey, we fucked up here, here, and here. We are going to do better going forward, and we're going to be honest up front. And as Dylan said, I think it is opening. Every time we have an election, that is a general election, we are going to have a primary, and we're going to honor that primary. Again, a lot of people don't trust the Democrats for a lot of reasons, but people don't trust Trump either.
Wick, can I actually ask you a question? This was the question I want to ask at the beginning of your opening statement. So, you see, to me, I think at a minimum, the GOP is about as hypocritical or lies as much as the Democrats do, give or take. I mean, I think more personally, but like we'll just say as much for simplicity. I find it interesting that Democrats get punished significantly more in the media for this hypocrisy, and my hypothesis as to why this is that Democrats just don't control the narrative very well. So when they play a similar game, they lose, even if they're not even playing the game as hard.
Okay,
there's a couple.
I think they capitulate a little bit too much as well.
Yeah,
this idea that Republicans control the media is a joke. Twitter is the 7th most popular social media. Okay. Twitter is the 7th most popular social media site. Out of the top 20 news sites online.
What's Fox News?
I'm talking about social media sites first. Hold on. Out of the top 20 news outlets, only 3 of them are Republican. The rest are Democrat.
Joe Rogan?
Yes, Joe Rogan's not right wing. I'm talking about news.
I mean, he has become more
He's
right.
not. No, Joe Rogan's not right.
Literally
He says
voted
he's
for
not.
I feel like back in the day.
No. The purity
There's a
testing
whole
laughing
other
is not
debate
going to
right
work.
there.
This is fucking purity
Oh
testing.
my
This is why nobody
It's
likes
not purity
Democrats.
testing. He's
It's purity
clearly he
testing.
talks about
Joe
it. He
Rogan
talks
is
about it, my guy.
Joe Rogan is left wing. Joe Rogan
Joe Rogan is
he says
left-wing.
he's left wing.
Okay.
Joe Rogan is left wing. Joe Rogan is not a news podcast.
I can't answer
Wait,
Shenandoah's
is-
question
is
because
left-wing
You
being
keep moving
said
the
he's left-wing?
goalposts.
Is
Hold
that
on,
the standard?
Joe Rogan is not a news podcast. You guys deflected off my point.
You said independent
You're
media.
lying about how much influence the right
you are
has on
moving the
life.
goalposts.
Clear,
Oh my
he
God.
doesn't
Hold
have
on,
to be a
hold
news
on,
podcast in order to control the
Hold
narrative.
on.
Joe
Hold on,
Rogan's not part of the conversation. You are shifting the goalposts.
I mean, but
you
Nina made a good point.
projecting.
Hold on. Nina made a good point there.
Switch the
Though.
water, dude.
Fox News is number one, though. Like, I mean, I don't
Huh?
like. I've never bought like as a conservative. I've never bought that. Oh, the right doesn't have any media say whenever Fox News is number one every year. Like, we're alternative. You're number one, bro. You're not alternative.
I mean,
even I'm not buying that. Like,
Daily Wire's up there too.
It's my assessment that essentially, like in the late 2000s and 2010s, like liberals were kind of more dominant in the media space, and that it's basically flipped backwards. Like Fox News is the largest cable news network. Newsmax has grown a lot. You have a lot of podcasters who may not necessarily explicitly be news, but they are very influential and they're very conservative. Facebook and Instagram, you got fucking Mark Zuckerberg, you know what I mean, who's like kind of openly aligning himself with Trump. You know, obviously X is like it drives the conversation a lot. A lot of news people are on X and so on.
Wait,
Exactly.
most news organizations, I won't say all, but it's a vast majority, take their reporters who report the news, they get their leads, they get their information, they are on X, right?
Yeah,
It's
and
not
that's a
how
big
many
deal.
people are on, it's who is on. And who is on, who is utilizing it, it's the people who are making the news, who are reporting the news, who are getting their headlines, they're figuring out what they're going to report on. The editors are on there. They're making like, hey, there's a lot of people on X talking about this. We need to report on this. So to act as if X and doesn't drive the narrative in even the mainstream media
Seventh most
is just
popular
not
social
true.
media. Seventh most popular social media
Oh
site.
my God! So
the other six are doing the opposite. And you're just hand waving it away. Like Democrats just don't do messaging. Everyone knows their message. It is not a messaging issue.
No one else
It's the
hears you. You're the
context.
only one yelling. Why are you yelling?
I'm trying to get in. There's a lot of cross. I haven't even got
I
you
promise
won't
you're
even
the
let
only
me
one.
finish answering my question, Shenandoah.
I'm trying to get in there, man. There's six people saying the same thing.
You did ask a question.
Listen, we're
I
only 30
remember
minutes
what
in.
your
Relax.
question is.
Calm down. Like, okay, go ahead, Winkle.
What did I ask you?
This isn't
Wait,
my
I'm sorry.
first rodeo with Tyler. I know how he operates, right? He won't let you get in a point. You gotta
that's
make
it.
sure to write down what people ask you because he'll just interrupt.
The guy that raises his
That's
hand all the
fine.
time.
But here we
All
go. Shenandoah, you asked me, like, aren't we playing a losing game with this, right? Aren't we playing the fact that Republicans get punished more, or punished less, I should say, punished less for telling just outright lies than the Democrats do? I think
Can I
that
throw
this
a quick
plays...
thing in?
Oh,
Would be
go
okay,
ahead,
just like
go
a
ahead,
small
quickly,
caveat.
quickly.
I do also want to say that I do agree that Democrats should try to be more honest. Like, this isn't me just saying like, oh, we should just be like as depraved as possible. I just want to say that, but go ahead.
Yeah. And again, one of the reasons that they don't trust us is we have lied to them before. We've been caught lying, and that's bad. We should never do that. But the reason that Republicans don't get punished as much as Democrats do is because we in the Democratic Party have been fighting a war with our extremists. The right lost their war to the extremists. The fact that they don't get punished for their outright lies is evidence that they lost that war to their extremists, because the extremists is like the watchword of the extremists is it's okay when I do it, right? They'll punish the Republicans' lie or the Democrats' lies all day or the enemy's lies all day, but it's okay when they do it. They're doing it for the cause. They're doing it for the right reasons, right? They're lying for, for whatever they support when it comes to the MAGA movement. The MAGA, making America great again, protecting the white race, what have you, right? And they are willing to overlook
Gibbs
Hegseth's...
is hating this. Okay.
Yeah, they're willing to overlook
This is
Hegseth's
the lives.
Hegseth's just brazen mishandling of classified information, right? And then they're willing to overlook Gabbard and Radcliffe lying about it under oath, right? Lest we forget, before Congress in a hearing, just straight up lying about it, saying, no, there was no classified information in that thing. And then the leaks came out right after that, and they're like, oh, no, that information is absolutely classified. It's insane. But that's just the kind of fight that they lost for the most part, and that's the playing field. We are playing in a field where MAGA can lie about literally anything. They can go. MAGA can shoot their voters' dogs, and their voters will still vote for them.
You know,
Can I ask you
wild.
hold on.
I'm the only one that's
Interesting,
got
I said.
Hold on, I do wanna-
wild to me.
I do want to say that's interesting, Wick, because like I don't know that I agree with you. I know that I'm the only Republican here.
I know you don't
Sure,
agree
sure,
with
that's
me,
fine.
but it's okay.
But it's
When we
funny.
talk about
to
the
me-
White House, he's totally right, though, right?
But it's funny to me because you say this, and in my head, I'm like, Trump was a pretty big step left for the Republicans, right? Like he's like pretty pro LGBTQ. He's like pro gun control. He's got like some other stuff, and so I'm thinking, man, we voted moderate this time. And then I hear you say this, you're like the extremists are in control, and I'm like. Well, somewhere there's got to be one of us has got to be real wrong here, and I don't know. I
Well,
find
to
that
bring-
interesting.
Well, let me
Go
address
ahead,
that
go
real
ahead.
quick. Let me address that real quick.
Then we'll
So
go to Nina. Go.
what I'm talking about extremists, I'm talking about not beliefs but behaviors. Does that make sense? So you can have a weird extreme belief, but I don't consider you necessarily an extremist. It's how you behave, how you act, right? If you are, you can have the most moderate milquetoast position in the world. Like, I think that women should be treated equally as men, and I'm willing to bomb a clinic to do so. That makes you an extremist, right?
Okay.
Like, that makes you an extremist.
Get that shit.
Yeah, go
Sure.
ahead, Nina. You were saying something.
Yeah, no, I think that like one of the big, I think maybe, I mean, Trump was basically like a, more liberal, like as an individual. But the thing is, ironically, it seems like he's not in charge. It seems like Stephen Miller is the one in charge now, because every single time we see him signing something, it looks like it's the first time he's ever seen it. And he spent, I think, 22% of his presidency golfing. Or on an interview, or live streaming and saying something. He doesn't know what the fuck is going on, like, unironically.
Can someone on
And
the panel tell me how
when
Trump is
I
more
think-
liberal? I'm very confused.
I am also.
Well,
kind of a-
well,
He's
he's
more
been
liberal
very
'cause he
positive
cheats on his wife.
LGBTQ.
So ignore exit polling data.
No, I'm just saying him
polling
as a
data.
person. I just don't think he
Makes
really
sense.
cares.
We're
But
ignoring-
the fact that the right has become so militant is not because Trump like necessarily like has like this militant idea for it. I think that people surrounding him do and use him as like a prop.
So we're ignoring polling data and exit polling data on trans people saying nobody cares, but then you guys are saying that people care a lot about Pete Hegseth.
We talked about
leaking
different data.
plans.
We just had different data.
Yeah,
Wait,
Republicans
am
came
I
out for about a
saying-
week and said that
I
was
said
bad,
the
and then the
exact
country
opposite.
moved
I
on.
said
No
that
one
MAGA
cared.
does not care how people
one cares.
handle classified
one cares.
information because they just
Who is
again,
going to vote on that?
They might not vote on it, but if you don't,
Then
think
why the
it's
fuck are you
fair,
bringing
then
it
no.
up? We're talking about the
Because
Democratic
we're talking
Party here.
about-
Like,
we're
it's
talking about
silly. To talk
extremism.
about
Do you not
Trump's
listen to the
administration.
conversation? We're having
Yeah,
a
we're talking about the
conversation,
Democratic
and I
Party.
am
Did you
trying
not know the
I used
panel?
this as an example.
Wick, I'm trying to talk. You cut me off again. Wick, I'm talking. You cut me off again. Wick, I'm talking. You cut me off again. Wick, I'm talking. You cut me off again.
All right, no many new people.
This isn't your panel. I know you love
Relax.
debating on those,
Hold
but
on,
shut
relax.
the fuck up for a minute.
Calm down.
Relax.
Don't. You're angry. Like, relax. Deep breath. All right. Shh.
I'm
Go.
good. I'm good. I wanted to
All
get to something Dylan said too in his opening. It was really interesting.
Hold
actually.
on. Okay. What? Wait. What
This
were you
isn't going to be
saying?
a hateful thing. Dylan actually made a really solid point in the beginning. So,
All right. Go ahead. Say your piece.
Oh damn! It worries me that we agree, but we'll see.
oh, I'm a fucking left winger. I'm not a sycophant for fucking stupid leftist shit. So Harris had a ton of transformative ideas. It was her entire career. It was a smart on crime policy that she wrote an entire book about. She helped pass Prop 47 in California. Her fucking office did a bunch of shit behind the scenes to get it passed. All sorts of things. She was in the one of the leaders of this movement that we saw that was in cities decriminalizing certain things, letting people that go out with no bail for holding somebody at gunpoint the same day, which is how it currently still is in New York and California. So
Isn't she
certain
an
things.
AG? What do you
Yes, she was the.
She doesn't make laws. What do you mean?
I didn't say she made the law. You got to keep up. I'm not going to repeat myself. I got to
Oh
keep
my God.
going here.
All
So
right,
what
let's
Dylan
talk.
was saying
Oh,
here.
she's not okay.
In the 2024 primary, she ran on all this things. She got 4% of the vote. The problem with Harris wasn't she didn't have transformative ideas. It's the fact that she didn't denounce all of her transformative ideas from the past. She just said, I'm going to do what Biden did. So she had this giant backlog.
Honestly,
I just went through three options. Examples.
I
What
have a
did you not
this is a
denounce?
different.
Laura-
Well, sorry. What?
Smart on crime
I thought it
policy.
was. I wanted to respond to it.
Yeah. Go ahead. Yeah. Go ahead, Dylan.
So honestly,
Smart on crime policy. Start
I'm
with
gonna respond to it with a different critique of Harris. So this isn't even a defense of Harris. I have of the belief that people still by the time the vote was being counted did not know much about Harris. She was not given a prominent position in the administration. Nobody knew what she did for 4 years, besides that she had something to do with the border, which is not going to give her a particularly good representation in this environment. And so while there was reporting on her time as AG, and she did talk about her time, like, she's the prosecutor running against the felon, people would hear like little snippets and tidbits. I don't think the average voter knew much about that. And so I think that's part of the reason why she lost, is because that became her just being a representation of the status quo. Well, Trump then became once again an agent of change. So I really don't think that
100%.
record had much to do with her
They
losing.
used her record against Trump. That's Trump's entire.
Well, no,
campaign.
I know. I'm not saying that the Trump didn't do that. I'm just saying it didn't end up being, I think, the deciding factor.
If I could also build on that, I also think,
Go ahead,
honestly, that just people just do not remember this stuff. People forgot a lot from
I
Trump
barely
1
remember
alone.
it, man.
Yeah, let alone fucking Kamala's AG term. Like, it's just,
Remember the Muslim
honestly
man?
yeah, I mean, a lot of people forgot about a lot of things about Trump. And I think polling data often reflects that.
Hey
where
guys,
it's like, oh,
everybody's voting
Christianity.
based on the Roy Cohen scandal. Everybody knows Roy Cohen. Everybody.
Yeah, exactly.
Here's the thing about politics:
Shannon-
it's the art of
Yeah.
the present. Like, it's the eternal present. Like,
Mhm.
it's impossible to predict who's going to win in 2026 or 2028, because
Of course.
they're going to judge it by the month before the election. What happens
Yeah.
within that month, or maybe two,
Exactly.
it's
Yeah.
that's going to be what drives most of the
Yeah.
voters.
That's not to say that I-
build off what you said, Shenandoah. It's like,
Yeah, go ahead.
on one hand, it's what exactly happens like within the first couple months before. So because what Dylan said, Kamala becomes the new candidate, and it's like, okay, wait, hold on, who is this? Let's like remember everything. The right wing is able to drive the narrative on that by making people give a shit about the one time she said maybe she would provide a prisoner who also is an illegal immigrant with health care, which I don't think anyone should give a shit about.
It's my
but
favorite
that
Trump
is
policy.
a thing that people did care. Yeah, exactly. That's the thing people cared about for some fucking reason, because they were able to blow it up. But also, I think you could see this reflected in the 2022 midterms versus 2024, how riled up people were when Roe v. Wade got overturned and abortion rights were kind of slipping away. And even though that was progressing and getting worse in 2024, people did not, it wasn't as blown up in the same way. It was just one of several things in a platform, rather than, hey, holy shit, this is happening, everyone go out and vote 2022. So I think this is also, people just have short-term memory, and that's why driving the media narrative is so important. You have to blast
the
this in their
short-term
face.
memory just keeps getting shorter.
Let me ask a question real quick. Soy Pill. So, okay, I want you to listen how you describe that. I will never forget this moment till the day I die.
Thanks, Soy Pill.
And it was during the debate with Kamala, and I was in Wick's chat. We're over here, and he said that he's like, oh, they're trying to give illegal aliens in prison transgender surgeries, and we all laughed, like, just ha. This is some crazy Trump shit. Then we Google it, and that's what it says. And then you just now described it, and you chose to give them health care. And I feel like that's part of what maybe I think some of the people in the middle are saying. They're like, oh, this seems like dishonest. You're like, oh, it's health care. Well, okay. In one part, like, yeah, it is.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, it's pretty extreme. Like, my taxpayers are paying. Like, taxpayers are paying for like an extreme quality of some mind. Like, you don't see how it's like somewhat dishonest in like some people's minds.
Sort of. I mean, I understand why you could view that as that way. I wasn't trying to present it dishonestly, but I think
No, I don't think you were. That's not what I'm saying.
Sure,
I apologize if you took it that way.
Yeah, no. I don't think you're accusing me, but I see what you're saying, and I think the problem is you look at, let's say this was like a person. Let's take the extreme right wing example. It's like, a legal immigrant prisoner said they wanted to become a snake, and they asked for these scale tattoos all over their body, and it's like, yeah, okay, I can see how someone would see that and say, like, why is my tax dollars paying for this aesthetic surgery? I think what the problem is that, like, no matter how ridiculous it is, for if it's a trans person getting surgery, if it's this person saying I want scaly snake tattoos, this is like a person in prison, and it's like at most like affecting little to no one, versus you could be spending this time hammering in the fact how Trump is openly saying he wants to raise all prices on foreign goods by 10 to 20% across the board, which is going to be hurting like so many more people. And the fact that they were able to drive that home and say, look at this ridiculous policy, and you can think that's ridiculous. That's totally fair. If you're like, hey, I don't think I should give trans surgeries to this illegal immigrant. Okay, sure, maybe that's your position. But this is such an irrelevant point. And the fact that people cared so much about it was because of the media being able to blow that up, because that does sound ridiculous. And when you see she did say, like, hey, yeah, I would give them healthcare if it's part of healthcare, then they're like, oh, I guess she supports that. Who gives a shit, though?
Yeah,
She said she wanted to change. She is bragging about changing the policy in California to make it that way. That's what
Sure.
her ACLU
Bragging about saying we can give
That
healthcare
same
to
debate.
illegals.
If you remember, in that same debate, Trump also said they're eating the cats, they're eating the dogs, right? Just made like
Say
the
that.
fact
That's
that
why it
he
was
chose to
time.
focus on one and not the other.
Well,
And
well, that's
one
what
is
I'm
the
saying, Wick. They're
one
both
we
crazy
remember and
statements.
one we don't.
No, we remembered both, but the thing is,
What
one
are
was
the-
like crazy because like, oh, Trump says crazy shit. I can't believe he said that
Sure.
naturally. And then he said the second one, we're like, oh, that's two crazy ones. Look at this crazy bastard. And then all of a sudden, oh shit, this one's true.
Yeah, and
know,
how many
like-
people didn't vote for Trump because they found out he lied about that? Like zero, probably.
It
Almost.
wasn't. At the end of the day, though, like who's going to trust the Democratic Party that had a 35% approval rating on the economy, saying the economy is great by every metric? Voters are just stupid. Who's going to trust them when they start giving an economic message?
Yeah,
I'm telling you, nobody.
But they were right.
I think that's true. Oh, did I? Oh no, no.
No, you're still here. You're
Yeah,
going.
Oh no,
yeah.
you're okay. But
Voters
while
are all
you're
stupid.
figuring out his
Yep.
stuff, on a
Staggered
productive note, I think that
That was a good
you're
exit.
kind of hitting on something that.
Hey, that was good. Yeah, he's just frozen.
He just fucking faded away.
He could fuck
Fucking
out.
Wakanda forever. Gone.
Yeah.
I was gonna go out that way.
Yeah.
Have you did like the auto update or whatever?
Fucking hit his power
You don't
button
think
with his
that-
foot.
you don't think that voters are all too stupid to understand is actually the
Yeah, on a
message
productive note, unironically, yes, I do think that we need to stop being like too like
Back, Wick.
thinking like voters are smart. They're just random people. They're dipshits. They don't know anything. Like I'm not saying everyone's like that, but let's make a message
messaging? You're stupid. Vote for me.
easy to be absorbed by like anybody. Like it's like having a teacher that like does not like assumes you already know what they're going to teach you. That's not how we should do it. We should be teaching them. We should be bringing
Messaging.
up constantly like exactly what Trump's doing, what he did, how it's affecting. Like when Kamala says the whole thing about the tax credit, it's like what does that really mean for me?
Well,
You know what I mean? Like I don't think people genuinely like understand that type of stuff, and you need to
Republicans
explain
do this.
it.
It's a Republican
Let me ask-
policy.
Well, let me ask you this, Nina. Though, so like, I think part of what I'm like, you're kind of hitting at maybe the second part of what I was trying to talk about with soy is there's like a group of people that feels like whenever you'll try to explain it, it comes off as like uppity or pretentious or condescending. Like, you really think I'm too dumb to understand this? Like, that's gonna make
That's
me,
fine.
even if you're right, it makes me not want to vote for you.
Yeah.
I don't really think that's a
100%
large
Yeah, I
portion of
agree.
people.
We should not message like that specifically. Like no leader of the Democrats
By
should
that
say that
metric,
shit.
how is Trump's economy not good by every metric if the only bad thing you're looking at right now is the polling data?
Well, it's good in every metric.
That's what Wick was
because all
bringing
the
up. He
good
went through the
things
polling
on
data.
Hold on.
Trump
Point by
economy
point.
and all the
Hold on,
good
our
things are
economy
provided in the
shrinking.
economy.
A little bit off, but
We had a
No, it's not.
negative
Oh, he's back.
growth in the GDP last
Did you
quarter.
look at the last month of GDP? Like the
Negative
fucking
0.3.
skyrocketing.
Okay,
We have
I
a
don't wanna,
skyrocketing stock
we're not
market
talking
right
about the GDP right now.
I think
mean,
we should
that's
probably
fine.
not measure GDP by month, maybe by quarter makes more sense, or by a
Oh,
different
yeah,
metric.
it's more. Yeah, nice.
Wasn't
So what
that
about
how-
That's
the
how you
2
usually
quarters
do
that
it. That's
shrunk
literally
under
how you do
Biden
it.
in July 2024? The 2
Hold on.
quarters back to back it shrunk under Biden. That was
Wait,
a good
hold on.
economy by every metric.
Is that what I said? And number one, but
I mean,
Biden's
I'm
economy
asking. You
was
said by
definitely
quarter, so
better
I'm
than
asking
Trump's
you, is that a good economy?
Much stronger investor confidence, much stronger consumer confidence. We had much more stable GDP growth. The GDP was growing until we had the shrinkage after the tariffs were implemented. Now, we could say what we want about the economy up to that point. There were still things that were weak about the economy when it comes to high credit card debt. There was still the problem with the housing crisis. But when Trump instituted the tariffs, he caused a capital panic. He increased the yields on 10-year bonds. Investor confidence still hasn't fully recovered. Consumer confidence is still in the shitter. And while the threat of recession has receded slightly, it's still looming in the background, and we have yet to see any measurable benefit from this tariff policy.
Almost every point you brought up was also true in the crash that happened between April and July 2024. And on top of that, consumer confidence dropped in the same way.
Self-inflicted tariff
Well,
policy.
but hold on,
It was
hold
a
on.
complete-
Yeah,
Well,
the-
what Trump
hold on.
ran on, so there's a difference.
Hold on.
One is mismanagement and denying inflation existed for 9 months, and the other one is what I ran on.
Yeah, if I
Well,
run
I
on
think
shooting
small
myself in the
businesses
foot,
weren't-
that's
Hold
not
on,
something
can
that-
I-
It's just not brag-worthy.
Yeah, I would also
Oh.
refocus it. I don't like. I don't like, see exactly how this ties to like what we're talking about with.
I don't
what
know, we
Davis
got the
problem
verdict.
The
is.
gaslighting. It's
Yeah,
the
let's-
gaslighting.
Let's so
It's-
yeah, I guess it's the gaslighting. But let's go back to the messaging thing. Shenandoah, you
Gaslighting?
seem to be you were responding to like that comment I made about it being.
I hit him point by
pretentious.
point, dude.
Where
Pay
were you
attention.
going with that? If you wanted to,
Can you repeat the
elaborate?
comment for me? Just
Yeah,
because
no, I
I'm,
basically
yeah,
saying
so much going
like
on.
where you're teaching people. This comes off as like pretentious, uppity, or like condescending. And I think that hurt. Like even if you're right, it makes people not want to vote for you.
Yeah.
You had a response to that. It looked like, and then we
Honestly, my response was pretty simple. It was just like, yeah, I really do not think that Democratic leaders or anybody running for higher office should be saying that, like, hey, look, you guys are stupid, because that also is like.
Well, that's not what I was saying.
No, I know you're not. Just to be clear, like, I don't want to like fucking completely straw man you. I know you're not saying like Joe Biden should just call like fucking like the.
I guess just to reframe, what I meant was simple messaging. Like I think the way that like Trump speaks, like it resonates with people because he does speak in very simple terms. And I think that is like kind of not necessarily something that we should replicate directly, but take that as a lesson that we need to speak very plainly.
Simplify your messaging and make it so that just about anybody with any level of education can understand it. That's
because it is also just hard to punch through. It's not even like a stupidity thing. It's just that there's so much going on, and the longer your message is, the harder it is to repeat it. I mean, it's a simple like. It's a simple messaging thing. Like, the more simple your fucking slogans are, the better usually.
Yeah, I was being a little aggressive, but yes, that is what I meant.
Kamala spoke at like a 4th grade level, and Biden couldn't speak. So, like, I don't know what you guys are talking about. Neither of them were articulate.
I get it. You don't like Biden.
Yeah, he was. I mean, I liked his year 3. His year 3 was actually pretty solid. I like that. No, otherwise.
I think a good example of this is Nina. I don't know if you mentioned this yet, but when Pete Buttigieg recently went on this podcast and explained, it was very, very blunt. It was not condescending, and I agree with your point, Gibbs. That like no matter how well the economy has recovered, no matter how much better we're doing than other people based on inflation metrics recovering from COVID, if you just say, "Hey, I know you're struggling, but actually these numbers are good," that's horrible messaging. It's not.
Yeah, exactly.
It doesn't matter if those numbers are true. People who feel the struggle, even if it is completely vibes-based, even if their prices might be going up, but their wages are going up, like some people are facing some sort of hardship based on certain numbers, and some people are just like, it seems worse. And regardless, you can't just tell those people you're stupid. I agree, and that's why I think when Pete Buttigieg goes up and it's like, hey, this is how a tariff works. This is why you're going to be paying more. Like, it's a very basic kind of thing, and that's what we need more of. And yeah, Nina, you're right. You don't need to go up and just say, I don't know what the fuck, the Kamala crime, Trump safety, or whatever that stupid fucking slogan is. Although that does work with his base, but you still need to be able to say, hey, I'm going to explain this to you plainly. And that's why I think Kamala Harris needed to go more like these Pete Buttigieg podcasts and just have these very basic conversations about, hey, this is what the Trump administration is going to do to you.
Oh, no, finish, and then I'll.
That was basically, I think that I think you can look at this. They kneecapped a lot of harder progressive PACs and speakers. And like, I think Dylan brought this up where it's like, yeah, we ejected Hasan, we ejected Vosh. Whether or not you agree with that is totally, up to you. The thing is, their vetting process for going on these different shows was very, very strict. They were, very, very, careful. Oh, like, is this guy saying like one thing out of line? Meanwhile, Trump is going on whatever the fuck. I mean, he started off his campaign in 2016 going on Alex Jones. Now he's going on whoever the hell he wants to go on.
On the next Kanye album.
He can. Might as well
I'll make a strong statement right now on that note, because I agree with you. I think that not going on a lot of these podcasts and being too careful and too cagey, right, did hurt the Harris campaign, and that should not have happened.
Yeah, she didn't come off very
that is just
relatable.
Should be fired and never allowed to consult for
wine
any campaign ever again. But I will say this: had she gone on Hasan Piker's podcast, okay, she sat down with him, and then during their discussion called him an anti-Semitic freak that no one should ever listen to, and then said, we don't want you anywhere near our party. 400 electoral votes victory for Harris. It would have helped. One of the things a lot of people were looking for.
Pretty big.
Again, she was a DA. She can be aggressive.
Why I'm saying that is one of the reasons I'm saying that is because one of the things that a lot of moderates were looking for is Harris willing to repudiate the extremists that are seen to be within her camp? Is she willing to speak out against them? And for the most part,
is this an unironic position?
Yeah, like
it is an unironic position.
What do you think? You think
no.
This is a sister.
Hold on.
You laughed.
One easy
Shut the fuck up. This is what happened to Clinton in the 90s, okay? He had a sister soldier moment. He went into a leftist space, like a Rainbow Coalition dinner of some sort, right? And he spoke out against someone who was, at the time, speaking sister soldier, who had made some racist comments about white people. And he got up and he, to her face, to the whole crowd, repudiated her. And this boosted his numbers. It made him much more popular. It made him much more electable. Harris needs that. Harris,
yeah, I think it's a projection of
I
strength
don't think
more than
that.
anything.
Wait, okay.
Yeah,
It's
I
one
would-
thing
I
to
would
say
say-
that.
yeah.
Okay.
I don't necessarily agree with everything with that.
Was that
What does
towards
she
me, or
want?
was that towards somebody else?
Dylan, I want to hear your response.
Okay.
Yeah, I want to hear.
So I'm not against her having a moment where, like, for example, I hated that moment from Bernie Sanders back during, I think it was 2016. I forget. Those two people waddled on the stage over to the mic. I forget who those two women were, but they were trying to grab the mic like, we're demanding this time. He should have just told them to get off the stage and continued with his rally. He should have shown a certain amount of backbone, so that he can, like, not that, hey, look, I don't respect people's opinion, but this is my rally, this is my event. I can show a certain amount of control.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that what you're asking for is for her to show control. I don't know if it's really helps to go onto another man's platform who happens to be the top political streamer on Twitch, when the Harris's campaign's goal is to help, like, try to boost voter turnout. They want to boost youth turnout. Hasan's popular with young people. I don't think in my mind that we're gonna gain enough votes to make it worth it, or certainly anything that would actually gain. Even if you gained votes, you're gonna get, like, what, 20,000 votes from the people who don't like it's. You're not gonna change the outcome of the election, and I don't even think you're gonna get votes. I honestly don't.
Who is the hates Hasan?
We only needed a few in a few states.
Most people don't know who Hasan is, like, outside of, like, young people.
Yeah, it's the Palestinian protesters that were in Columbia, Harvard, committing hate crimes against Jews, and the colleges that are now currently suing the Trump administration to push back against civil rights legislation. That's what the voters were paying attention to in hate. 78% of the voters in a March poll said they want Israel to stay in Gaza until they completely finish off and remove Hamas. 78% of the country. What other issues are 80-20 like this besides trans issues?
But why is it
that-
Harris's job? But that doesn't translate to it being Harris's job to go to these protests and, like, condemn these people. That's not to say it's politically beneficial. I just don't think it's
Well, the same way that Trump has to condone whites, or have to go out and condemn
going
white
to a
supremacy.
representative of a group that are seen as aligned with the Dem, even though they're not. Like, let's be clear, Hasan Piker did not promote Harris to his he wasn't advocating for them to help elect Harris or anything like that. He didn't do a damn thing, right? A damn thing to get Democrats elected, right? Mike from PA, his little orbiter buddy, actively advocated people not vote for Harris, right? And Harris didn't say one word bad against them. She just didn't scream death to Israel enough for them. But here's the thing, like, the reason I'm advocating for this is I think that we need, as Democrats, to show that we're willing to stand up against what people feel are the extremes of our coalition and our party. People are tired. They're tired of this extremist movement. And I guarantee you that if she had done something like that, it didn't have to be exactly that. It doesn't have to be exactly Hasan Piker. It could be another representative. Pick one. Doesn't matter. Pick someone popular who can be painted as an extremist and throw them to the wolves. Sacrifice them on the altar.
Pick, like, how about we pick, like, an actual wait, okay. If you were to do this, in my mind, you would pick an actual celebrity, somebody, and I'm not trying to be mean to Hasan, but you would pick somebody who, like, most Americans know that aren't, like, under the age of 25, right? You would want to aim for the people who, on average, actually come out and vote on, like, these young people do come out, but not as much. It would be some celebrity who does say something stupid like, I hate all white people or something, and then she just retweets it and say, like, I don't know, I'm trying to imagine whatever this moment would be. It would depend on whatever the tweet is. But all I'm saying is I don't think that condemning anybody's favorite Twitch streamer or anybody's least favorite Twitch streamer would have changed the outcome of the election. It would have to be, it's a general presentation problem.
Right, and just to add on to that, Dylan, because I totally agree. I think calling Hasan out as anti-Semitic would not have won very many, if any, votes. But yes, Tyler, it is an 80-20 in terms of basic whatever your poll was. But 50% of Democrats, or anyone who leans Democrat, so even centrist, think that Trump is favoring Israel too much. So, like, the idea that if we called out the Palestinian movement within our own party, that somehow this is going to, like, sway some, like, enough of a swath of people. Like, I mean, don't get me wrong. I think going harder on things that people really don't like would be a better thing. And that's why I think Kamala should have called Donald Trump a retard on the debate stage. But I don't think that calling Hasan Piker an anti-Semite would have helped.
Well, you're ignoring
Hold on, Tyler. Before you respond, I also want to engage with what Dylan just said, because I think he presented an interesting dichotomy, right? He said, you brought up the going after Hasan, and I think, and how like nobody over the age of 25 is going to know who that is, and that's an interesting thing to me, because on one side we have what like a lot of people are saying, oh, the right took over the alt media, they're like really good at this, we need to do more of that, and then you see them try to like manufacture this with giving Gavin Newsom a podcast, etc. But then at the same time, I think you hit the nail on the head. Like, yeah, Hasan might have actually been a good one to call out because he's an extremist and not very many people know him, and it could be like good branding. But at the same time, it's like, do you really want to like is this the market you want to engage in? Like, how do you manage these things?
Here's
at the same time, while like calling him out versus like a celebrity who's gonna have way more name value. Like, what do you?
I will say that if there is a celebrity you can point to that you think would be better, fair enough. I'm open to that discussion. My point here is that you pick someone that is pretty popular, but that isn't going to vote for you anyway, really, who isn't like Ilhan Omar or someone you have to work with in Congress, right? But is someone that is sacrificable, right? And a lot of people will say things like, well, oh, we don't want to alienate these people, the pro-Palestinian people.
You want a fall guy? Is that what we want?
Yes.
Unironically, like organic. He's like organic, right? Like,
but if I can finish, obviously that isn't the only point of failure of the Harris campaign. There was multiple points of failure. I don't know if just that would have changed the outcome at the end of the day. But I am saying this as a general rule going forward, that the Democratic Party needs to stop being scared of its extremists and needs to call them out and needs to become and brand itself as we are going to stand up against our crazies. Look at Trump. He's bowing to the crazies. Look at us. We're going to stand up against the crazies.
That's why just disagree with working for Trump. Then why shouldn't we bow to the crazies?
Out of the conference a little harder. If Harris personally escorted him out, then she would have won the election.
Again, this is a
WWE.
If Harris had showed up, no one covered Hasan getting kicked out because Hasan, unironically, Harris didn't do it. If Harris had done it, you would have had Fox News cover it, CNN cover it, MSNBC cover it. They were absolutely covering every single show that Harris went on, every single interview she did, every single talk she did. The news organizations were there. So yes, Harris, one of the benefits of being a presidential candidate is being able to get the eyeballs. So you pick someone that maybe people don't know too much about, but you can frame the person, right, as super anti-Semitic.
What happens? Okay,
which
let me throw this up to you. And this is a general problem. What happens when Harris walks up to Hasan? She says, "Hey Hasan, you're acting crazy. You can't say what you've said about Israel here. We stand with Israel. You have to lead." And then he says, "You locked up all those black kids. You did X, Y, and Z. And then all the camera shots is going to be left wingers, maybe showing her boss girl moment. It's also going to be showing genocide Joe, genocide Kamala, bombing the kids. You're failing on X, Y, and Z." And my question is, do you think Harris is enough of a, good candidate, good at messaging in that moment to make this a
Ethan could be Hasan, Harris could be Hasan.
Okay.
That's not necessarily been litigated.
Go to Mehdi Hasan.
Then Harris can beat us.
Mehdi Hasan at MSNBC is a better example because he was on the air saying pretty much the damn same thing. And no, it didn't need to be Harris personally. It needed to be the party, because at this time, again, we had Columbia going on, Harvard going on, UCLA going on. There were people illegally protesting and holding buildings. Many of them have been charged. The charges were dropped. Alvin Bragg dropped almost all the charges, I think, but 12 cases. Everyone else's charges got dropped. A bunch of people that were working with these people, no charges were even brought against them. Almost all of them got away with it. There's 2 people right now that were in Harvard that beat the shit out of a Jewish student, and they were facing assault charges, and people are trying to get those removed at Harvard off of the students. The fact that this was going on, it needed to be stood up to by the Democratic Party, and to Rick's point as well.
She was constantly talking about her support for Israel, going out and condemning anti-Semitism, and she was. I mean, what more was she supposed to go out there and do?
They condemned all the camps. What did you want?
I really don't think that just condemning Hasan alone would mean much.
And not go into Rafah. These are 2 totally separate things.
Yeah.
He needed to come out stronger for Israel to take.
I honestly feel like even if she did condemn Hasan, I feel like people just wouldn't take it very seriously. I feel like even if you had the scapegoat, like just because Democrats aren't pushing that messaging well, even if she fucking kicked Hasan in the nuts, I just feel like It just like the Democrats wouldn't be able to get people to believe her that she truly fucking like actually.
Yeah, she doesn't seem to have that type of energy. Like I thought you were being a little bit more metaphorical when you said Hasan. I didn't realize you meant literally Hasan when I said base. But just to make that correction.
Wait, I want to piggyback up what Shenandoah said because that's exactly what I'm talking about when in the sense of, yeah, like, first of all, Wick, I don't doubt that I'm sure if you poll a lot of maybe independent to right-wing voters, you'd see certain people thought Kamala was, and I know this is true, people on the right thought she was too extreme, like she's too progressive, which is silly because if you look at her actual policies, she is not at all like too progressive. It's very, very, very like milk toast. However, it's because of the messaging machine that they're able to say, hey, you clearly aren't calling out these crazies. And the idea that you think this would work, I think is silly, because even if she did do that, which I don't think would have changed much, but even if she did, the messaging would not be, oh, hey, from the right, I guess Kamala isn't so crazy. I guess she isn't too progressive. It would be Kamala feigns outrage at the extreme left wing, knowing that her policies are still extreme, right? Like it's all about this media machine that's going to be able to spin it.
Respond to that.
We've had these types of adjustments in Europe too, where for example, there's like it's really, really big on immigration. It's a different issue, but like Geert Wilders, part of the reason he performed so well in the Dutch electorate isn't because Geert Wilders was like some election mastermind, is because once the entire electorate shifted to the right on immigration and the general consensus was, I guess, the right were right on immigration. Well, if you're voting on immigration and the right are right on are the ones who are right on immigration, you go to the king of it. You go to the person who has always been talking about immigration, who's always been talking about this issue. So if the Democrats come out and say, you know what, actually, trans women aren't women, trans men aren't men, we don't care about this anymore. Pass whatever laws you want. You make them have to do this on ID and we completely jump on the Matt Walsh train. All that's going to happen is like, oh, so the Republicans are right. Well, then they should be the one making policy on this. I don't think it's going to lead to Democrats out of nowhere.
Right, that's what Gavin Newsom did, and is Gavin Newsom going well with moderates?
Yeah, and I agree with that.
Because Gavin Newsom came out and had a less than woke stance on trans sports, right?
You guys are going far left, far right here. The middle ground, 70% popularity. 70% popularity for liberal values for trans people. Let people live how they want to live. 70% popularity. Saying that they need to be in the same spaces as women when they're in privately, that went too far. They needed to reel it back. And when they
Tyler, you want Democrats to not be hypocrites and have values, but you also want them to switch every single position to what is like the median popular idea.
No,
and I honestly think that like displaying strength is really important.
Just a temperature check. Who thinks that the Democrats, whoever is the face of the Democrats, whoever it may be, AOC, Josh Shapiro, whoever becomes kind of like the de facto leader of the charge for 2028, for 2026, etc. Who thinks that they should call out the extremists on the Democratic side? Really?
All of them.
I think this is a problem. Okay, we've hit on it. This is a problem. The fact that all the hands here didn't shoot the fuck up is an issue. And I think that one of the issues that we have are Democrats are seen to play footsie with extremists.
Well, do you mean to...
It's really hard, if I can finish, and then I can let you finish. Like, it becomes really, really hard for people to when we say, well, we're not that extreme, when someone asks a basic question like that, like, hey, are you willing to stand up against extremists? And people are like, it really doesn't sell the message that we're willing that we aren't an extremist party. It's a problem.
Well, first off, I'm not running for president. And second off, when you say extremists, right? I don't know what that means. Are we talking about people who have politically unpopular positions? Or are you asking me, am I going to stand toe-and-toe with somebody who wants to bomb some sort of political event? Of course I'm not going to stand toe-and-toe with some bomber. If that's
kind of why I was like,
wild question. But if you're asking me, like, am I going to stand with somebody who wants to completely abolish the death penalty in all instances because he believes it's a sin against man or something, and therefore, then yeah, I'll stand toe-and-toe with that person because that's a value I generally agree with, whether it makes me extreme or not extreme. Maybe I'll stand toe-and-toe with somebody who, we should stand on our values and principles, because if we just look like flimsy flip-floppers who are cheap and we just go where the polling goes, then when the American people turn a certain way on an issue that's good, it's in our favor, it's within our values, we won't be there to receive them.
Let's go to Nina here real quick. I know you're trying.
Yeah, no, that's basically what my question was going to be as well. It's like, what do you mean by extremists? Like, obviously, if people have more to the left views, I don't.
Can I piggyback off of that? Like, okay, so for example,
Go ahead.
Sorry. Oh, sorry. I didn't want to cut you off completely. I didn't know you had more to say.
Oh, I
was
was
gonna
just
say, like,
was going with what Dylan said. So yeah, you can go ahead.
no, that was fair. Actually, I just wanted like for fun. I was just gonna ask Wick, like, am I an extremist? Because like I'm somebody who like very
I don't know you
often is.
enough.
That's fair. Like I was just gonna say, like I'm very often like very militantly anti-Trump. Like I think what he does is fucking horrible, and I'm like very, very open that like honestly I think it's treason and they should be fucking put on trial. Like I'm fucking awful about that. But also at the same time, like for a Democrat, like I'm kind of centrist in the Democratic Party, like center right. Like I'm not really like a socialist, you know?
I think that when I say extremists, I'm talking about Hasan and people like Hasan. I'm talking about Mike from PA and people like Mike from PA. I'm talking about that kind of wing of party who thinks it like who have advocate the
Okay.
people who are firebombing Teslas,
Well,
I should
okay,
say,
okay.
the people who are shooting at Trump,
Well,
right?
can I ask
People
you-
who are
actual
right,
extremists that
advocating
matters?
or
Wait,
making
Wick,
jokes
this is
about that,
important. Wick,
right?
this is
And I
really
want to come back
important.
to that in a second.
You
What-
have
yeah, go
to
ahead.
name an extremist that's important. Like for instance, Luigi. That's a extremist that killed somebody who, you know, did an instance of what people could describe as actual terrorism. Nobody knows who Mike from Couch is, okay? Nobody cares. What people care about would be an actual political extremist, like a bomber or a manifesto writer or some thought leader who said something crazy like all white people are the devil. That is like, for example, Luis Farrakhan, or something where you could point to some extreme, even though Luis Farrakhan is not somebody I would call like a leftist extremist. But my point is, you're supposed to be able to point to somebody who I think people know, and Mike from like these streamers, nobody gives a fuck about. Okay.
Yeah, it'd be
they
really
also be, like,
weird
somewhat afraid of the
if
Democratic
Kamala
constituency.
Harris
This is a
pulled out
microcosm.
Mike
That's
from
the issue.
PA.
Anyone that
Hold
says
on,
racism
hold
equals
on.
power plus prejudice as an extremist.
Well, I also want to touch on what he just said here. I want to present you with an alternate scenario, right? Because I think part of the Democrats' Party, like and from an outsider perspective, is it feels like everything's manufactured. Like I see Gavin Newsom's podcast, and it seems to me like it's very like manufactured, right? But then you mentioned Hasan, who I think that he's I'll get to. Like I think he's basically just a speaking point for like the Dems, like right, like it's like one person removed. That's what it feels like. And I mean, maybe it's because he was the governor. You know, that might be like some grace on that. But like with Hasan, he's very like organic. Like I believe Hasan believes what he thinks, right? Like if you watch like a Tim Pool, right? I believe Tim Pool is probably getting, if he got paid for Russia, he's probably believes what he's thinking. Or if I watch Joe Rogan, he's probably believes what he's thinking. It's like an organic thing. And
Why'd you say if? It's definitely true.
Sure. If like whatever. Like my
He got
point
paid
is,
by Russia.
I mean the beliefs. Like my point is, it feels like these people all on the right, like are middle. They're like very like organic right now. Hasan, even though he's on the left, to me has that feel. Wouldn't it like it might be the opposite be true? Have her going on that and go like and maybe not alienating these people, going, oh, he's a crazy person. Maybe like having a conversation where, yeah, I think you're wrong, but I disagree. Let's have a convo about it, and then leaving. You don't think that could have maybe emboldened her to like a whole new market as opposed to what
You
you're
could have
saying?
a moment where she looks like, oh wow, Harris is flipping out at this person who's actually acting quite polite in person, and she's like, it could be
And it's
like
not as good at that.
uncouth to the voter, which isn't like a moral condemnation; it's just the electability question.
Yeah, it wouldn't
Well,
look like the crazy accusation
Again,
all the time.
I
I will
am
also say,
I'm willing to bet a not inconsiderate sum of money that would have never happened.
well, I will.
I
also
think
say-
I want to
that
piggyback
just
off of what
being
Admiral
real.
Gibbs is saying here, because look, if your idea that like if she went out and yelled at him for being anti-Semite would have won over votes or called out these extremists,
yell.
versus whatever going on his podcast and somehow like indicating in some degree that these Palestinian protesters, a lot of which who stayed at home, might have a chance of some sort of like degree of changing policy once she got into office, or that just hey, no matter what, I understand that you're upset about what we're doing right now, but look how much worse Trump is going to be. I think that at least I don't think is going to reach a lot of people, but way more than calling out Hasan specifically, especially for someone who is like already anti-electoral and probably isn't promoting a lot of his people to vote for her. I think that at the very least, you look at Joe Rogan and when Bernie went on, and it's like, hey, like people who thought this guy was a crazy socialist and they get to hear him talk in a unscripted fashion for 3 hours, say, wait, maybe this guy's exactly like Pete. Maybe this guy at the very least is reasonable, and I might be able to relate to him in the same way that if Bernie went on and just said, oh, Joe Rogan, you're an extremist, you're a lint rolling brain bag chip, like that's not going to do shit. Like,
Yeah,
it's
can I
gonna yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
To piggyback off the piggyback, I also think that whether you hate Hasan or whatever, he does tend to want to appeal to moderates, because whether you think that's a funnel into being more extreme, whatever. The thing is, he would be very polite to her, and he would definitely mask on very much with her, and I think that absolutely would have helped her campaign.
I 100% guarantee you that if she was seen as cozying up to Hasan Piker, she would have lost by even further. It wouldn't have just
I don't think people know. Who would you be losing? Who would she be losing?
She would be losing anyone who sees as a problem that the Democratic, who suspects that, maybe Kamala isn't telling me the truth that she's not an extremist. Maybe she's
going on
lying to me.
Maybe she
Right?
is.
like
Kamala
so many different
Harris,
shows.
is
But
what
on the
voters
flip
thought.
side, you saw
Didn't
Trump
the
go on
Jews
Nathan Ross.
overwhelmingly vote for Harris? Like, isn't that how that goes in the polling results? Like, didn't the Jews
I
overwhelmingly
don't
vote
have
for Harris?
the data, but I think that less Jews voted for Harris than voted for Biden. She lost
Yeah, but
Jewish.
that's
Well,
almost
that's
every
just kind of
demographic
the
except
entire-
LGBT.
yeah.
You
Literally.
You brought up the polls though again, right? I'll keep bringing up the polls. Tyler especially has done this. Has brought up the polls in a few minutes. I think like a big criticism from the right was the polls are all wrong, right? And like I felt like how much do y'all think biased polling has played in this? I'll give you an anecdotal example. I got a call here in San Antonio, and I was getting called, and they were asking me the questions. I answered all the questions, and then at the end, they're like, "Well, what is your ethnicity?" I'm like Hispanic. They're like, what party did you vote for?" I was like Republican. They're like, and what do you identify as? Like, I was like white Hispanic. They're like, oh, okay. Well, we already have too many white Hispanic Republican voters in this area. And I'm like, in this area, I'm probably all of them, like because it's San Antonio. And so I'm like hearing this, and I feel like maybe these are like polls where there's, variables wrapped out. They're not good polls. How much do you think individual like polling, like the polling wasn't accurate? What do you think happened here? Like, why were they? Because y'all seem to rely on the polls a lot more than the Republicans.
Polling was great.
No, wait, what's wrong with the polling? Oh, first of all, speaking of polls, the Jews voted overwhelmingly for Kamala. It was like really high. So I think going out and calling out anti-Semitism
solid
was
number.
not
It was
what
only
she
in
lacked.
what we're talking about was only anecdotally within New York and Pennsylvania. Generally, it wasn't nationwide.
Yeah, but in
Pennsylvania,
terms
the
of-
state that was keystone to us winning. Yes,
Yeah, but
that's
it
a
wasn't
problem.
nationwide. It wasn't
And here's the
nationwide.
thing, again, there's a few things that are at play here. No one single issue was going to change this because it was a multivariate problem where multiple points of failure, where none of it was going to you can't just fix one, you can't just plug one hole because there's leaks all over. It was like Swiss cheese of problems.
I don't start with this associate's degree shit with me, Wick.
Right?
It's everything's fucking multivariate.
But what I'm trying to say here is that one of the problems that Harris has, and the Democrats still have, is that they are seen as a party that has that plays footsies with extremists, that doesn't police its own, that allows the crazies to take the mic.
With
right?
who, Wick?
With moderates, with moderates, not.
Why are this?
Regardless, we should.
I'm asking
she should
is-
also condemn President Sunday.
Well, you know what? President Sunday, Hasan has millions of viewers. Let's be clear, right? Sunday has tens of viewers. Okay,
But no, what we're getting at, Wick, is why do they believe that? Why do they believe that? What did Kamala do that indicates that she is siding with extremists? And
can you name an extremist group she called out within the Democratic Party?
Do you answer my question, which is what did she do to indicate that she's siding with them? That she is
not calling out the extremist groups in the Democratic Party.
Like who? Hasan?
Like Hasan Piker.
Wait. I need to stick on this. Wick, do you think that if I ask the average Republican voter, they will say, I think Kamala Harris is extreme because she did not call out my favorite Twitch streamer, Hasan Piker? I know who that is. I know who that is because she didn't call him out.
No, what they will say is, I think that Kamala Harris is lying about being a moderate. I think that she has extreme views. I think she has extreme views when it comes to Jewish people, with extreme views like the Columbia protesters, extreme views like all these people. What Hasan is a symbol. He's a stand-in. It doesn't have to be Hasan. It could be someone else. It could be pick a celebrity that's bigger.
So this is why I'm asking though, is because it's
someone who's representative of a group. And they won't use the term Hasan. You guys keep returning to this term.
No. Wait, Dylan, please. Dylan, I have to respond to this. Dylan, please.
They hit you with the bad faith, Wick?
The problem is not she didn't call it Hasan specifically, or she did not call out these people that Hasan represents. The problem is that the media is able to drive this narrative that she is extreme because she sides with these things. When you look at what she says and what she does, this is just not materially represented. So why at all would calling out these people have changed anyone's mind if they can just lie about it again? That's the whole point.
I got that.
Because it would have made the lie harder to sell.
They're
When they-
just
They're lying
gonna
about
say it.
blatant
They're gonna lie
reality
about
now.
you
That
anyways.
That matters. There's a reason why some lies take hold and stick, and others do not. It
Yeah,
becomes
cats and
how
dogs. That
credible.
stuck. That was literally just completely false.
credible
Like,
it
and that drove votes. Like, I don't see what you think is going to happen. Like, this is.
Hold on. How many votes?
Wait, do you think that she should have thrown trans people just completely under the bus, been like, all trans
Have I
people are
said-
fucking
have I said
crazy?
trans people
No,
once
no,
or
I'm
twice?
using it as an example. I'm using it as an, obviously I don't think this is your opinion. I'm just asking you. Like, if you're talking about capitulating to them just like lying about your position, like,
Hold
should
on.
they have done that or
The
what?
opposite of saying
Because I just think it's an
capitulating about
unwinnable
lying.
battle. I think it's an
I'm
absolutely
saying
unwinnable
counter
battle.
that lie by showing an example of you being willing to call out and fight extremism on your side.
Right. And we said,
He was
okay,
not
what
able to do
extremists?
that,
And then you said
so she
Hasan
had no
Piker or
defense
the
against
Columbia
that lie.
protesters.
Let's
And then we
Tyler, go.
showed that she was not being anti-Semitic, and actually Jews overwhelmingly supported her. So, one, I don't think the data
Less
supports
Jews
you
supported
here.
her than supported Biden. She
Less
lost.
everyone
that
except
vote.
LGBT
She
did,
got less
and none
votes
of-
than he did, bro.
And she
Like, what do you
lose
mean?
them at a higher
Well,
rate than the rest of them.
Percentage.
let's go to-
Percentage. I'm not talking total. I'm talking percentage.
Tyler, go ahead.
All right, just because I didn't want to yell over anybody here. Wickets again, pretty right here. So if you look at this, what Soy Pill's talking about is the size of the parties and what the parties look like. But since the year 2022, the Republicans have had the party advantage, according to Gallup, which again was in my citation document. You all could have read. And at one year, they were up
I did
3
read it.
points. Yeah, 2023, they were up 3 points. This shows that their policies were unpopular. Not the messaging they were doing in the last 3 months, not Kamala Harris, who had 160 plus bills in her years in the Senate, who was the number 3 and the number 1 most progressive senator the 2 years she was in the Senate, who had a big track record, and again, she was paid to during the election as this, who had a big track record of running on Smart on Crime, wrote an entire book about it, led her time as the DA about it, push as a senator for it, push equity policy. An extremist isn't a single person here. An extremist is extremist views. Anyone that says racism is power plus prejudice is an extremist. That is the anti-white movement people are talking about that was embraced by the party. It's not the party itself, it's these academic movements that
people are talking about.
Yes. Yes.
I mean, we talked about it a little
I
bit.
didn't hear about
talking
that
about it
during the
later.
election. I heard a lot about
It came up.
I definitely didn't.
No,
know
it came
that.
up in the panel like a little bit ago. Someone brought it up.
Right,
in the
but like
meeting.
who's like the people voting on this
You
are
might have not
not
been here yet.
Democrats who sit out. The people voting on this are the people who like apparently think this is a huge issue. That I mean, I haven't heard anyone say that since like 2018. And as much as I disagree with that concept, it's like this is not what Kamala is running on. And it's like, did she have to come out and say that? Oh, actually, black people can be racist. Do you think that was what made it so that she didn't win because she didn't call
No.
out people in the academia?
No,
that's what I'm saying. It's like who cares? Like,
I was giving
who
you
cares?
one example.
And the answer to who cares is apparently people on the right who get these like information bubbles and they're like, oh yeah, Kamala Harris is anti-white male. Like
And what
that's a good
happens
point.
is-
he has friends that thought
Yeah,
that. Which I
and
think
what
is
happens
right.
is both
Not
sides
because
get a
they're
chance to
stupid.
speak, and then the people that don't agree with either yet listen to both sides, and they say, you know what, Trump is closer to reality than Kamala Harris on these issues. And maybe she's not talking about him now, but she has a long career that she's just stopped talking about him 6 months ago.
Yeah,
So
I
like,
guess sorry, I was just gonna say, like, I guess what's just so frustrating to me is like, fucking Republican congressmen could say some of the most wild shit I've ever heard in my entire life that I would get banned off Twitch if I tried to repeat it here. But like just some random Twitch streamer or TikToker like says insane shit that even maybe I disagree with and that gets blamed on the entire party. And I really do think the reason for that is just like the media environment is busted. I was gonna ask you at the beginning, Wick, is like, okay, you said that the reason that the Republicans don't get called out on much for their lying is because they have fully embraced their extremists. I mean, like, okay, this is a somewhat sarcastic question, but it actually has a point. Is like, do you then think that like the fucking Democrats should just embrace their extremists too? I don't think
Hey,
that. I
Pottery,
don't think that's a
thanks
good
for the
idea.
comment.
But it
Appreciate it.
sounds like if that's the reason and not the media environment, then like the thing to do for Democrats to get themselves elected is to just drop the act and be fucking extreme. But I think it's the
We
information
need like
part.
I
an
can answer your
NPR style
question.
Proud Boy movement.
Yeah.
I can answer you.
The Pride Boys.
Yeah,
the Pride
dude.
Boys.
The
It's
Pride
good.
Boy.
The
I'm
Pride
actually-
Boy. The
bear with
Pride
me.
Boy.
Right, so we got multiple issues at play here, right? One of the reasons a lot of MAGA and a lot of people embraced MAGAism was a response to what they felt was, and again, we can argue whether this is true or not, what they felt was the rising extremism that was taking over the left. And they like, we have to fight this, we have to fight fire with fire. And so now I see the same thing happening, like, oh, and then Trump got elected in 2016, and the Democrats did the same thing. They're like, look, the rising extremism is over here. We have to embrace our own extremists. It's called reciprocal radicalization. It's a process that happens in a lot of fields, a lot of times, and it just keeps ramping.
Can I tell you a really
embrace
interesting
extremists in 2020?
I got to actually finish the point before you understand exactly why I'm saying this, right? So give me a moment, please, for the love of God. Okay. So when we have this situation, right, that's going on, there are a growing group of the electorate in America who wants this to stop. They don't want this. They don't like this. They're holding their nose and voting for whoever they think will stop the extremism, right? And they're trying. It's a growing at this point, right? I don't know if it'll continue to grow, but at this point, I think it is. One of the party, I think, that rejects its extremists first and hardest, I think, is setting itself up for generational wins. And I want that to be the Democrats. They have to be able, moderates have to be able to tell the Democrats and the Republicans apart. And it became much harder for them to do so. And we scoff at that as pundits and things like that who watch these news every day. But for normies, it became very, very hard. Well, why should I care who wins, whether it's Harris or Trump? Both are the party of extremists. My life's not gonna be any better or worse either way.
Well,
foolish?
is that not a messaging issue? Do you think that those are the same thing? Do you think the parties are the same?
I also want to
agree with
push back
you
on
with
this
the
interpretation
messaging
a little
issue.
bit.
And my prescription to solve this messaging issue is to denounce and expunge the extremists publicly, loudly, and meanly.
But Wick, if you look at the polling data is not, I mean, for the right wing, sure, that Kamala is too radical, she's too they, them. But if you look at like a lot of the people who sat this election out, which again, I think if you look at the numbers, it's 20 million fewer votes for Kamala versus like the few million that the Republican Party gets. It's not, oh, we thought Kamala was too extreme. It's, hey, I don't feel seen by this. It wasn't, oh, she's too pro-progressive, she's too pro-Israel Gaza. It was, hey, Kamala is not addressing the working vote, she's not addressing healthcare prices, she's not addressing the economy in a way that I think is substantially going to be different. And I don't think this is in any way means that if she had come out and been like, hey, everyone, just so you know, I'm not a crazy radical socialist. It's like, okay, well, that's kind of already what they did. That was the whole campaign. It was, hey, I'm just like Biden, the guy who, I don't know why you said that, like, there's this reciprocal extremism. Biden's whole thing was, let's return to normalcy. Let's get back to the middle. Let's go back to the status quo. And she kind of, agreed with that. It's like, hey, I'm not going to do anything substantially different. Maybe I'll be a little more left. But there was not this push from her campaign to go super far left. Now, yeah, sure, maybe she didn't denounce super far lefties constantly, and I just don't think that would have made a difference. It's clearly these people who don't feel heard, not that they're like, she's too crazy, although that is what the right wing was going to vote for regardless. So
yeah, I think we can split the difference here.
I'm sorry, could I actually
don't mind.
quickly just get in? Okay, fine.
Okay, go ahead. No, go ahead.
Oh, okay. It's really fast. I was just going to say that actually, Soipel, I wanted to build off your point. Did you actually know that there was an exit poll after this election that showed that voters tended to believe that Kamala was actually closer to the center than Trump was, but just this election, they were feeling more center right. So they were like relatively closer to Trump, but they felt that Kamala was less extreme. There is actually a poll on it. I'll actually link it.
No, I agree with that. That's probably true, but the exit polls poll people who vote. We're talking, and Soypill's point is a lot of people stayed home and did not vote. So that would not be reflected within the exit polls.
Let's go to Nina here. Go ahead.
Right. Yeah, just put the difference here with, I think, with the messaging and also with like understanding that we should do more to, like, I guess, not necessarily. I don't want to say that we should like condemn the extremists, because I don't think that's going to get anywhere. But I think one of the big issues here also is that we don't have anything really to work towards. And I think that you develop these extremists in your party because they are so wanting to have something to, like, some message to be kind of like to advocate for, that they kind of get a little mixed up. You know what I mean? So I think that, again, when it comes to, it's both a messaging problem, and the reason why these extremists tend to crop up is because they tend to attach to an extremist voice because they're at least advocating for something. You know what I mean? Like, again, that goes to the status quo thing, right? Like, when you're advocating for something that's a message, that's why Bernie Sanders generally has been so popular, because he's not perfect, but he's got a message and people want to rally behind it.
That's what I meant earlier, by the way, when I was comparing like Newsom to those other ones, right? Newsom seems like he's gonna just parrot your like middle America, your like middle
And
ground,
no one likes
talking points, right? But like versus like Hasan or whatever, he's going out there and he's saying, "These are my crazy stances. I stand by them," right? Like I think that's kind of the point that I was making earlier with what you put it a little more.
Kirsten Sinema's the same way as Newsom. They blow with the political wind. You could always tell where the party's going based on what they're campaigning on for their current campaign. And Kirsten Sinema was big on border security this time around.
Right, exactly. That's what I was worried about earlier. That's what I was saying earlier, is that like I think actually having some stable positions is legitimately important for Democrats.
You guys want to get into that issue? Because that was Biden's largest unforced error. We were gaslight about it for 3 years. AOC went on the news multiple times.
Sounds like
it was a right-wing lie. And then 9 months before the election, a bill that would only reverse the changes that Biden made through executive order came out. And all he had to do was reverse his own executive orders to fix it, which he ended up doing anyways.
I don't know. Like Biden on immigration, he actually deported a lot of people. Like
most of them were at the border. ICE deportations,
especially with the Title 42 deportations. I think it was Title 42. I could be wrong with the numbers.
ICE deportations are
a giantest worm into a pond, and you just took a big bite of it. By the way,
that's another issue. She brought it up. She brought it up. I just doubled down on it. I did not. It's just it was the number one election issue according to 2 exit polls.
I understand, but I don't think that like. I heard much about immigration until
they shipped them. Until they shipped them
a year before the election. That's when a lot of people started really pounding that.
Yeah, well, there was a 3-point gap between people that side with Republicans and people that side with Democrats, and Democrats knew they were in for an ass whooping in the election. They completely shifted their narrative. Joe Biden ran on asylees surging the border, and one of the first things he did in office was lower the criteria you need to apply for asylum. We saw when Obama did that in 2009 through an order that he gave to the DHS, that fraud went up almost 10 times what it was at the moment. It was allowing fraud. Well, Trump closed that loophole. Biden reopened that loophole and then said we need a new bill that would put catch and release into law. And if you don't pass this new bill, there's nothing we can do. Trump comes in and does it without the bill or any more money. So,
honest question, I'm missing the relevancy.
Well, this brings back to I can make it really relevant, right? This comes back to the cats and dogs thing, right? I know that once again that was pretty hyperbolic, right? Like they weren't actually eating cats and dogs, but outright lie, whatever. But it does bring attention to this issue, and all of a sudden now all these Republicans are talking about, hey, they actually changed the app system for asylum seekers. We should look into this, yada yada. And now it's a talking point. I don't feel like Kamala ever had, like, even though it was a bad moment, it ended up kind of like he could spin it into a win. Versus, like, I don't know that Kamala ever had that. I don't know. Like, he's like straight from the hip. Like, I don't know. Is that the problem? Like, we don't have. Is that like too formal now in the internet age of the internet, the age of the like 30-second TikTok? Like, I don't know. What do y'all's thoughts here?
Well, no, I think that plays totally into what I'm saying, which is like, it doesn't matter if you, just let them get away with this lie or whatever, if you're going to then let them shape the narrative on what your immigration policy is. Like, what they should have been doing, and I mean, Tyler, you can argue about the effectiveness of that bill or whatever. They should have been hammering in that, hey, Trump, like, we tried to do something about this and Trump canceled it. And they're I think the Republican narrative on that could have easily been, hey, we want this canceled. We think this will just, sway voters a little bit, but, Trump's going to be the real solution. But they didn't. They just said, actually, no, that's totally made up. And no one ever pressed them on it. No one ever like tripled down on these questions in the media. Like, hey, you got this border bill killed, didn't you? Why did you do that? They just are really, really bad at shaping this. And it's like they're allowed, the Republicans, I'm sorry, they're just fucking better at media spinning and getting away with all this stuff. And like Democrats suck at it.
No, I agree. And on it,
was Biden's executive orders that he put into place in February in 2021. I will link you the exact executive order.
No, I know what you're talking about. He got rid of the Remain in Mexico.
And in 3 years and 2 months later, he asked Congress to write a bill to close the loophole that his executive order opened and tried to shift the burden to the GOP after 2-3 years of saying there was no border crisis. I can give you Democrats going on the news, multiple of them, surrogates of the Biden administration going on the news, multiple of them. All sorts of people saying there is no border crisis. It's right-wing racism. And then as soon as it became a problem, hell yeah, there's a border crisis, and Donald Trump's the reason why. It's gaslighting.
So just to be clear, Biden was willing to give up something that he started, like conditional on the cooperation of Republicans, and what? I mean, that sounds like just regular negotiation.
Did you guys know that? I had to tell you that.
No, I knew that.
Yeah.
Biden didn't say that. Nobody in the administration said that. They didn't say we're undoing our policy. They just silently did it. Once the bill didn't pass, he went back and unreverted his own executive order.
But I'm just curious how this matters. Like, I guess, like, okay, no, I'm being serious. I just don't understand because, like, my understanding of what you just told me is, like, Biden passed something and then he said to Republicans, hey, I'll do, like, a horse trade with you on a bill. Like, if you guys help, like,
I think
like, that's just regular
something,
politics.
passed something, it was extremely unpopular.
And then the Republicans said, well, no, we're not going to horse trade on this thing that would help us.
Yeah. Well, so let me try to reiterate. I think maybe your points get lost a little here, Tyler. Let me try to, like, so what I think he's trying to say is, right, okay, here's the facts, right? There's certain set of facts, that's the undisputed facts. And then it was presented to the public a certain way that seemed were like just straight up gaslighting. Basically, they were just being lied to, and people like saw through it because the facts were pretty basic. Like, you didn't have to be a political scientist to understand, okay, he did this, then he reversed it. This is clearly his fault, kind of thing. But the messaging was like suddenly it was somebody else's fault, right? And it seems dishonest. Like, it seemed like a mass overall gaslighting, like to maybe. And I think a lot of modern.
I want to jump in here, Gibbs. It wasn't.
No, that's the point I think he's trying to make.
I understand that, Tyler. The idea of like, well, you caused this problem. How do we get out of it? And like, maybe you could. I think there's merit to saying, oh, did they not acknowledge it, right? Like, to the degree it was a crisis. Yeah, there's millions of people there, but like, to the degree that the Republicans were presenting this as like, yeah, there's tens of thousands, if not millions, of illegal immigrants coming in. They're all committing crime. This is the worst thing ever. Our cities are on fire. Like, this is the narrative from the right, and that's why this was such a big issue with people. To the degree to which it actually affected people, I think is much less so. And specifically, it's silly because if you look and if Biden comes out and says, hey, this was a mistake, this executive order, the Remain in Mexico policy, we tried to get rid of it because it was causing this like conflict and stuff in Mexico, and we thought maybe this was inhumane, but it caused this big surge at the border. Well, now I'm trying to solve it, and this guy's not letting me solve it. We have bipartisan agreement between two parties to say, hey, we can both reverse this and put a bunch more money into process asylees quicker, to do XYZ thing. And they didn't let them do that. And I think the message of the failure to call out Trump and say Trump is making sure that we are not able to solve this problem that we have bipartisan agreement on, that was way overshadowed by, hey, look, there's so many illegals, they're everywhere, they're burning people on trains.
That would have been gaslighting.
The immigration was a losing issue for Democrats in the 2024 election. I'll just stipulate to that and agree with you. Yes, it was a losing issue for multiple reasons, messaging partly because we did fuck up on that. It's just true. But here's the deal. I think that when it comes to the public's perception, because remember the topic is why are Democrats losing, right? One of the reasons the Democrats lost and are losing is because they were seen as gaslighting, as you guys were saying, as I think Gibbs was saying. And I think that this is, again, the reason it gives me hope, as I said in my opening statement, is because people are seeing that, oh, Trump's lying too. Trump's incapable of doing this and fixing this problem. And that's why his numbers on immigration and approval ratings on immigration are tanking from when he took office. They're tanking. It's because people are seeing more and more how he's handling the deportations, and they're like, I don't want this. I don't want anything to do with this. This is crazy. And I think that people are fleeing from this. Now, again, he could reverse course. There's still time for him to reverse course. Will he? That's the question. If he wanted, like, for example, the stipend program that he recently if he had started with that, I think he'd still be up 20 points on immigration, right? But because he decided to send people to the foreign torture prison with no due process, people were like, no, we don't want that, right? That's not something we want. And I think that, like, the same problem that Democrats had in the last election, the Republicans are going to have in the coming elections. And it's going to be worse because here's the deal. Trump can't govern. He's proven incapable. He cannot fix any of the problems. Look at India.
I agree with you.
G.A. Vance to disarm that, to diffuse that, to try to get that toned down. Didn't work at all.
Wick, what you're saying is true, and the idea of this, like, oh, Trump is polling numbers are dropping, and the reason that's happening right now is, one, I think when the material conditions start affecting people and they see, oh, tariffs make my life worse. Oh, my family is getting deported. Yeah, or I get fired by Doge, all these hundreds of thousands of layoffs. They're like, wait, this fucking sucks. So it doesn't matter, how much he lies if they believe him. But as soon as they see that it's not true, it doesn't matter, because now it's like, oh, okay, like, I'm materially affected by this. But two, I think the media has actually at least tried and is doing a better job of saying, hey, look, this guy's getting deported without due process. This is fucking insane. And that is causing, you see in these like Republican town halls, people are like, hey, I don't think this should be happening. When are you going to go bring that guy back? Like that is part of the messaging problem. But so that is kind of like a two factor thing where, yeah, material conditions are going to matter. And I think people just weren't happy with, during the Biden years, partially because of COVID, but for other reasons. And if the same things happens with Trump and we're able to stick to the messaging, that's actually going to be how we win that election. So
I wasn't calling soy pill a gaslight. I just want to clarify because I didn't get cut off there. I wasn't calling soy pill a gaslight. I was saying that the narrative he was prescribing. No,
you were calling me that.
The narrative you were prescribing. You and Shenandoah are wonderful gentlemen. I would never say anything.
Called you a bitch too. I hear.
I wouldn't. I said that the narrative you were prescribing them to use would have been gaslighting, and we'd have to. The Senate bill had poison pills in it. They had things like stanchifying catch and release into law, allowing Republicans to stop getting rid of it when they took power. So stay in Mexico would have been illegal. They would have forced catch and release on the president. There was also a provision in there that the emergency powers to close the border, there was about a non-emergency version of it that Biden was going to do. They agreed, I think, about 5,000 people a day coming over. They were going to do it. That was a power the president had the entire time. This bill would have taken that power away from the president, but only after 18 months after this bill's passed. So basically, once Biden left office, this power was stripped away from the president. It also had money for Palestine in it and all sorts of other shit. The House at the time passed H.R. 2. This is the House's counteroffer. And usually how this goes is the House gets a bill, the Senate gets a bill, and they negotiate. Mike Johnson was held out of negotiations, and the Senate said they weren't even going to look at H.R. 2. You just have to pass this. Mike Johnson said this is dead on arrival because they would not let us have input on it. So they poison-pilled that bill intentionally just to have a narrative against Trump, and nobody believed it.
Do you think that the average person knew about that?
Not all the details. All they get to see at the end is, well, this immigration doesn't exist.
Do you seriously think that impacted the election?
Yes.
I want to come back kind of to
the number one issue on exit polls.
Well, soy pill was just saying. I don't know how exactly. You kind of got lost there, but okay. So on one hand, we have like the Dem leadership seems to be just dying, right? Like in the polling right now. Obviously, we're like Chuck Schumer's like 17%, and then we look at some of these things like all this thing with the immigration and yada yada. Like, how do you see it going forward? Because I know you're like, oh, we're losing the Republicans are like losing their moderates, but I think with like things like the Garcia thing, for example, right? He's kind of pandering to his base because he thinks the moderates aren't going to be that involved in the midterms. What's his the guy that got
Garcia, the
Garcia.
Right,
yeah.
Wait,
so
you said no. You said he's pinning to his base.
Trump is pandering.
Trump doing that is him.
Gotcha. I was a little confused.
Bruno Garcia's campaigning in the El Salvador.
He's Trump. He's like, but no. So I'm like saying my bird's eye view. This is kind of what I'm seeing, right? So it seems like he's pandering to his base, and like all the people are like, yeah, that's what I voted for. Those also are probably in my mind, probably the same people that'll show up midterms. Versus with Dems right now, it seems even though y'all are like pointing to these things, there doesn't seem like there's a plan. Like even in my here, we all been kind of like amongst yourselves figuring that out and debating. It doesn't seem like there's a plan, and y'all's current leadership is at like 17%. Like Schumer's awful. So
because they don't have a plan.
What do y'all see going forward? Yeah, what do y'all see as the light?
Here's the deal. We need a plan.
What are these predictions?
That's absolutely true. One of the things that people are mad, Democrats are mad at the Democrats right now, is because they don't seem to have any effective, like they keep trying to decide what they want to do, but they need to pick a lane. They need to pick a strategy, and they need to run with it, right?
That's kind of what I said in my opening, right? Like, I think that they're trying a lot of different approaches. Like, I've been seeing a lot of, like, people in the Democrats, like, that I've never heard of before that are going on, like, a bunch of different shows and stuff like that, like, trying to get their message out there. And I think that we're working on seeing what's going to work, because I think that's one of the issues, that Dylan brought up at the beginning with like not having the primary means that we didn't know what worked and what didn't work, right? Like we didn't have enough time to kind of figure out which messaging resonated with people and stuff like that. Like that's kind of the point, right, of having a primary. So I think that we're kind of doing that right now, but I understand the frustration, of course. But
now is the time to be clear. Doing this, when we don't have elections coming up right around the corner. We have to make sure to figure out as a party what we want to do. I know what I would advocate for. I think that one of the biggest problems that Democrats have is they lack genuineness. Like people see them as
that's kind of what I was saying.
I mean, yeah, I think
come up a little too polished.
Not even kidding.
See them
it's a big
as
part.
someone who's been focus grouped to death. We need people to go out and I'm saying this slightly hyperbolically, but only slightly. They need to start going out and calling people retards. Right?
Hey,
Yeah.
can't steal my
Hey,
point. That's my
yeah,
point.
That's also
They need
my
to
point,
start
but
going
it's kind of
out
more his.
and just being more human. They need to be
Yeah, Jasmine
someone
Croc with the
that-
Hot
they don't
Wheels.
need- They need to push back against like the fucking messaging machine, right? They need to just be like, I'm not going to say that shit. That's
yes,
bullshit.
but not yet.
Josh Shapiro
Yeah.
is who I would pick. Like, he's my guy. I live in Pennsylvania, full disclosure, right? I'm biased, but Josh Shapiro in Pennsylvania has really good approval from both the left and the right. Obviously, the right likes him less, but he's still, a lot of people I know who voted for Trump also voted for Shapiro, right? They like what he's doing here. They like how he's getting things done. He doesn't get super involved in the culture war shit. All he does is stick to the bread and butter issues, the things that he thinks are important for his state and his constituency. And I think that that's the path going forward. The future of a successful Democratic Party lies in the Northeast, not in the West Coast.
Whitmer or Fetterman's my pick, but generally I agree with you. I just think they don't need to do this right now. Not right now. They need to do this. They have a higher, their base right now is higher propensity voters that are going to come out more likely for special elections and off-year elections. They need to spend the next year and a half being this extremist party, pushing those people out to those elections. And then as soon as the midterms are over, then they need to pivot back to the center in the way you're suggesting. That's the smartest political move.
Honestly, I think the entire reason that people like Schumer are just so extremely low in the polls is, as we've already said, that they don't really have a plan. But I would double that plan is like, the little plan they even have is like this capitulationist plan. And obviously that's extremely upsetting and demotivating for Democrats. I actually do think this is a big reason why a lot of Democrats stayed home during the election, because they sort of feel like their party is like kind of fucking weak and like doesn't actually fight.
Absolutely.
And like, yeah, and it's like, even, you know, again, they don't have to be socialists necessarily to do that, but they are too. He said the thing. He said his name. I can't believe it. That was the titular line. But anyway, yeah, basically, yeah, he needs. I honestly think that like the main reason Schumer and co are just like so extremely unpopular is they just need to fucking go for it, man. Honestly, and I can't like name any specific person right off the bat right now. I'd have to go look, but. Yeah, I would love to see a fighter. I really, really would.
Yeah, I'd really like to see AOC as party lead. Like, I don't necessarily think that she's got like president status, but I absolutely could see her like, you know, like House Speaker and or like party lead type position, like taking over.
Democrat senator. That's about
What,
as far as she's
what about you, Joe? What do you think? What do you think they need to do? Who should they put forward?
Who we should put forward? I don't think it should be Josh Shapiro. I don't think it should be JB Pritzker. Even though I like the mannerisms of JB Pritzker, I like the way he presents himself. I think running a billionaire against a billionaire is giving up too much tax space. We should not be running the rich against the ultra rich. I think the Democrats need to project themselves as the party of the working class, and that means not just like, hey, this guy fights for the working class even though he's a billionaire. You can run somebody who has working class roots. It's one of the most favorable portions of Biden's personality was the fact that he doesn't have extremely like royal political roots. This is somebody who had, relative to the people in Congress, a semi-working class background from Scranton, and that was something that actually performed very well in the area that I'm from. I'm from Maryland. I have family in Delaware, and that's at least the image that they had of him, and that led to him doing okay in this region of the country. And I'm not saying that Biden is like, we need to do everything Biden did, but what I'm saying is we need to run somebody that can present in that manner. And I think John Fetterman can present in that manner when it comes to being working class. But I think as of recent, I just don't know if he is focusing on the issues that we need to be in order to transform the country. I really don't.
He's focusing on getting his wife killed by speeding on the highway, apparently.
Oh, that was a hit piece. Come on.
That was a hit piece?
It was a hit piece.
Did he or did he not do it?
He did it, but it was a hit piece.
He did.
88 fast, dog. You should see me drive.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, he does seem to be getting more unstable, I will say. Like, he is also just having trouble collaborating with other Democrats, which is like one of the reasons I was always like a little bit skeptical of Bernie, is that like I wasn't sure if he was able to play ball with the rest of his party, which can make things really hard. Like even, say Bernie's good or bad, that's just like a fucking.
I don't like this. It's all
and AOC is like the reason the left hates her. The extremists that Wick wants to call out don't like her.
They can't make too much money. They probably have to be white. They probably have to be a man, right? No, come on.
I don't think I would say that.
Right, this
I mean, let's get that fucking guy who announces basketball. I can't fucking remember his name.
It is part of that.
Stephen Smith
I don't
or
think it's all identity.
Yeah, I don't watch
basketball. I mean, when Trump has the richest man in the world working for him, trying to reshape the government unconstitutionally in many facets, I think that running another billionaire against him is kind of leaving just completely ignoring an attack strategy. I understand like JB Pritzker might have a good personality, but no, I like, here's my problem with it. The reason it stuck with me is, remember JB Pritzker speaking at the DNC and getting up there and saying, "Hey Donald, I'm a real billionaire," and I could not stop rolling my eyes.
Yeah, or Bloomberg. Like, look how poorly Bloomberg did, no matter how
the
much
fat cat narrative writes itself.
Yeah, I was gonna say, to add to that, it's already, I feel like the Dems already have like a perception as the party of the rich now. Like
right.
People, I hear every day it's flipped, kind of thing. And
academia is more how I put it. It's not just the rich, it's the elite. It's everything trickling down from college.
Yeah. Do you guys think that Newsom
actually, unironically, the question to me, by the way, was who I'd run. I would run a Waltz type again. Honestly, I would run them as the main ticket, not as the vice president.
Really?
Yeah, I would. Yeah.
Waltz type or him?
Waltz. I said a Waltz type. I think that the pathway they were going with Waltz was good. I don't know if he's the final draft though.
Yeah, I don't
more like folksy.
What do you mean by like the kind of
weird is the right way to put it.
Can you elaborate on that a little bit, Dylan? What about the Waltz type do you mean?
That he has like teeth, right, Dylan? Like the idea that he's going to like he's more genuine.
Part of it is
he's authentic and he fights.
When I grew up, I was raised by like a granddad who castrated pigs on the farm growing up, and then went to Nam at like 17, right? And so if he had an opinion, he was on the couch, he would say it, like, that guy's a moron, or he would, in the way it would come off was very authentic, because it's just the way that he talked as an everyday guy. And when Waltz at the start said, these guys are weird about the weird things that JD Vance and the other people, it came off extremely authentic. It hit well that, yeah, it is weird. It is freakish. These guys do have some really strange niche policies that they've expressed on these platforms. And I think that communicated well, and I think that the fact that and people can laugh at it all they want and they call it unauthentic, but him running around in camo with a shotgun, say, "Look, I hunt, look, I fish," I do think that was communicated well, generally enough. It's not gonna be his job isn't to win the fucking the Boogaloo Boys. His job is to win the Elmer Fudd type who's like, I like a gun, but I don't necessarily think red flag laws are the worst thing in the world. That's the type of guy that he can win over. Let's not pretend we're going to win over the militiamen. And so I'm not saying Waltz is perfect in this. What I'm saying is that these are qualities that they obviously thought about when they chose Waltz. And if they keep going in that direction, I think they could run a good main ticket person.
Freaking Democrat is what I said.
This is where it comes back to the manufactured thing, right? That, and I think you just did the thing, because like when I heard Wall say weird, and then I was like, who? Then I looked into him. I'm like, this is one weird fucker. Just however he moved around, he like creeped me out. I don't know what it is. Like and it's not just my unbiased opinion, like my biased opinion. Something about him, sus, right? And then I see him in these photos of him in the camo and he's hunting, and I'm like, this is the most manufactured shit I've ever seen. Like, if he was like authentically doing that, yeah. But like, nobody believes he's out there. And if they do, they believe he's out there with Dick Cheney. Like, and how much hunting is that really? Like, no. I don't know. I didn't buy it. And like, maybe that's because I am more like in the hunter variety. But even if they're like the Elmer Fudd type hunter, I feel like a lot of them are going to be like, yeah, he said weird to get ahead of him. This guy's not really one
the
of us.
weird wasn't
It's
meant.
still
The weird wasn't.
manufactured.
Well, it's you're marketing to multiple people. The Democrats win off of Big
Sure,
Tent party politics. The Democrats never win because they particularly won with women or they particularly won with this one group. It's that, well, even though that can help, it's by building a bunch of little tents and making it into one big tent. That's why it's called the Big Tent Party. And so I'm not saying that he needs to like convince every gun owner he's the most authentic gun owner on the
no, I'm not
planet.
saying that either.
He needs to convince them that he's not going to go in their gun shed and take away the 3 rifles they have as a casual gun over. That's what he needs to convince them of. And that, I think, someone of his ilk could do much better. As when it comes to the weird was supposed to be an attack strategy that communicated a vibe-based feeling that people feel when they hear certain things from Trump's past or certain things about a lot of these, we could say,
No, I
dark
get it.
web intellectual type like opinions that are coming out about like fuck, I don't want to get into the old fucking Jesus Christ. I don't want to get. The election was almost a year and a half ago. I can't even remember what it was at the time. What actually initiated the weird attack? I can't remember.
I think I honestly
Vance couch.
The dolphin
It was the
couch,
J.D.
yeah,
Vance
the Vance
couch.
couch, yeah, that was the.
It was the AP falsely reporting that was in the first copy of his book and then retracting it a week later.
And to be fair, I think the weird thing was to a degree manufactured. Obviously, he had to go through and figure out, hey, what am I allowed to call these people without it being too much for the Democratic Party? There was absolutely a panel discussion about that. I'm sure that happened. But I don't think that means it's not authentic because he did feel that way and it did resonate with a lot of people. And that is actually when they were polling the best, when people thought, oh, what the fuck? We have a non-muzzled change candidate that is now going to come out and say things. And then it's all of a sudden, by the time the VP debate rolls around, it's, oh, actually me and you agree on a lot, JD Vance, and I know I called you the party of weird extremists who's going to take away all our rights, but I think we can find middle ground. And it's fucking sucked, and everyone was like, oh, you're just a status quo like limp dick soy boy, like this isn't great. So
it was the same thing with Shut Up Man. It was exactly the same. It was fucking great.
Fetterman's already got those credentials, though. And not only is he one of the most popular Democrats right now, but he was one of the only Democrats willing to vote on H.R. 2, which was the Republican version of the Senate bill that came out. He was the only Democrat willing to vote for the Laken-Riley Act. He reaches across the aisle on a lot of these issues. On top of that, he's a big labor guy, and the South is full of laborers. There's a 2022 Bloomberg study that shows labor voters, a fucking core vote for 1960 Democrats is like voting 3-1 right now for Republicans. If they can peel those back, and Fetterman can do that, he's the right guy.
Honestly, I feel like if he did actually become popular, negative polarization would like just fucking sweep up, and he would be unable to like bipartisan shit. It would just be impossible. Like if you become the fucking Democratic nominee, like the country's just so polarized, it doesn't even fucking matter.
Being electable is one thing, but look. Let's say he gets elected by saying I'm the bipartisan guy, and I'm not saying that's impossible, but I'm gonna say it's unlikely. But let's say we can attempt to do that in this environment. Okay, he gets in there. What does he do then in a bipartisan fashion with this political divide? And so it's one thing. I want early Fetterman talking about transformative ideas more. If I could see more from Fetterman that sounds like what got him to beat Mehmet Oz, even though he had a stroke on the campaign trail, and less, I think, choosing on the specific issues on how to differentiate himself from the rest of the Democrats. What I'm hearing right now when it comes to like sticking out on Israel, if I'm to believe that this is him going through some political transformation or like marketing transformation, and it's not his brain decaying as like some of his staff is alleging and through these reports, I have no clue, so I can't say one way or the other. I'm assuming he's trying to say, look at me, I'm not your average Democrat. I can like push against the grain, probably in a way that Wick described and kind of he wanted from, the Democratic Party, to maybe act more like how Fetterman is. But I don't know how that performs in a Democratic primary. And I also don't know if that means he still can deliver those not performative, but those transformative ideas that would get people excited about the Democrats. Because if it's just going to be like, I love Israel and he's gonna like fight his like the left. I need to see more of early Fetterman and not more, fighting
now
on the
Fetterman.
internet. Of now Fetterman.
Yeah.
I
I
mean,
mean, if
also
I don't
just
want to
thinking-
give them the attack of like another brain damage candidate, you know what I
I was
mean?
This
Yeah.
Well, I was
this
gonna
is what
say
I'm
that.
saying.
I was gonna say what he said. You said performative, but I think like as like misspeak. But I think that's actually an appropriate word too. If he could come out and be performative and like be competitive in some of these like showings, then I think that would help him quite a bit in the against the his brain is rotting allegations. You know what I'm saying?
One of
I
the
don't know. I feel like it would get pushed so hard. It is an easy
Yeah.
one because
It's
it
gonna
is
be
very
pushed no
public
matter
record.
what. It's just a
Yeah,
question of
I
if
feel
you
like
can
it's just
diffuse
like, oh, they ran Biden. Well, now they're running another retard.
Right.
Oh,
They did that. They did that though.
Shadow
They literally
Cabal-
did that to him.
The Shadow
It didn't work.
Cabal running it. Yeah.
Yeah.
He
that's
had
a good
his
point.
stroke
The deep
right
fake.
before the primary, and they hid it from the primary voters. So there was a lying allegation involved in it. He still won, and he's still popular. And it's looking like he's probably going to win if he runs for re-election as well. He's one of the most popular Democrats right now. So they did exactly what you said.
The
The most popular
difficulty
Democrats is a very low bar right now,
with this
unfortunately.
conversation, right, is that we need to have a primary to decide because we are mostly Democrats here, right? Or at least voting for Democrats in general. And we have, I think, as this panel has demonstrated, remarkably different views on how to move forward. Until that is allowed to have a dialogue and a vote, not a poll, but an actual vote where we can count up and tally them, it's going to be a lot of like, well, I think this, I think that, speculate. Again, I think that my advocacy here for a Josh Shapiro type, it doesn't have to be him specifically, but I think it should be him specifically. That might change based on what happens in the next 3 years, the next 4 years. And I think that we need to, one of the things that I'm advocating for today is a principle. And that principle is condemn extremism, police your own, appeal to the other side. Those 3 things.
I want to start. So we're getting close to time here. I want to say one other thing here because you kind of brought up the 2020 whatever election 28. But let's talk about midterms. This is kind of interesting with what Soypill just said with how unpopular the Dems are. How do we see the results of the Dems playing out? Like I mentioned, Trump's pandering his base. I think his base comes out and vote. Is this a situation where the Dems are not going to come out and vote because they're so dissatisfied with their party, or what are y'all thinking here? Or is it a thing where they come out and vote droves and replace people in like primaries and for those? What are y'all thoughts?
So
Any
I
kind of
think
wild
that-
guess?
I think
I'm
that
expecting a blue
unfortunately-
wave personally.
Yeah, if I say this is unfortunate because it won't require us to learn any lessons. I think we need to, but I think that the way
Right.
that Trump is governing right now, we could run Biden again and he'd win.
Probably.
That's probably true.
It's just that's how bad Trump is doing.
Trump is still up 12 points on the economy from Biden. So
Bill, what do you think about that? Do you agree with
It
that?
doesn't
statement that
matter.
Joe
People
Biden
are
again?
unsatisfied.
And he would win now.
that's what they're unsatisfied with is his economy. They like his border, especially if you split up border policy and the great immigration. Like Fox News does, he has like a 60% border policy right now. It's his immigration that disagrees.
Tyler, I think by November, like tariffs are going to fuck people so hard that I think you literally could put like Biden's corpse in the chair and they would vote for it. Like it's
You
going to
could
be
run
really bad.
President
Yeah, we're gonna
Sunday
have
and
small
he'd-
businesses that are
You could run
completely gonna go out of
Hasan and
business.
he'd
They
win,
spent their
okay?
life.
70% of the country likes
Building.
tariffs.
No matter what, my
No, they
point here
don't.
is
What?
that no matter who we put up against Trump, unless things change, unless he reverses course, unless there are some black swan
glad we got
events,
to this.
right? Maybe Iran attacks Israel or something, and there's something crazy that happens. It does not matter. Trump's party will fucking lose, and it won't be close.
I love this argument, by the way, guys. The trickle down to own Trump. The Democrat Party was in favor of free trade about 20% before the election. Now they're up to 55% once Trump put tariffs in. Something that Barack Obama did and ran on. Something that most Democrats have done besides Bill Clinton, the new Democrat. Other than that, tariffs were a left-wing policy. I can give you the 10 different instances of Bernie Sanders advocating for the exact same way Trump was, or Joe Biden.
Are you even?
to like
Half of
any
Bill
other
Clinton,
Yes,
CPT,
yes, I am.
Obama, Hillary
Yeah, they
Clinton
did
won the hemispheric market.
10% tariffs.
Okay, if you're making an argument of scale, that's not what you said. So if you want to shift the goalpost there, then yeah, the scale is bigger, but that's not
I don't even know
what
you're
started with.
responding
It's not
to.
where- I mean,
Yeah,
like,
no,
Your
I don't-
comments.
Obviously, we're talking about Trump tariffs, not the concept of a tariff. I mean, if you can look at like who's more free.
Okay, well,
trade
if you want to
than
break
Trump
those
tariffs.
down, I've done tariffs on those as well. There's 6 different ones we're talking about.
Tyler, hold on. No, what were you saying? You look like you were trying to get in there.
Who? Me?
I thought Dylan was speaking there.
Oh, fuck. Okay.
Like,
Yeah, Dylan's not gotten my bad. Dylan's not gotten a lot of time.
Did you want to comment there?
Honestly, it was such a mess that it slips my mind. Give me a second.
Yeah, man. Just
No,
be
you're
a
good.
peace, man. Like, just don't even try.
Yeah, I mean, on that note, yeah, we could go ahead and wrap up here anyway. It's about that time, perfect timing, because I got another panel here in about 20 minutes going to host. So it's gonna be good times here. It's gonna be why are leaders.
Oh, you know what? I remember what I want to say. This will be my.
Go ahead and say it, and then
Okay, my problem. Even if you are okay with tariffs, the rollout of the tariffs. This is the thing that confuses me. If you are the president of the United States, we control about 13 to 16% of China's export. Now, if we were to include our allies, you're talking about 65% of China's export. What he's doing is the problem of many different, I think, egotistical leaders in their position. He's decided to go on a one-man or one-nation crusade, deciding to institute tariffs against all these different countries at the same time. And in many instances, what he's ended up doing is pushing these nations together. The Chinese, the South Koreans, the Japanese, they've released multiple statements about deepening economic cooperation. The European Union is speeding ahead to try to get into place of us in the TPP, the Trans-Pacific Partnership, the new expanded version that includes Australia and other Asian states in the region. And I think that you run the risk of giving up useful leverage and getting our allies to come along with us and going against those who are actually engaging in unfair trade practices against the United States in order to make this scattershot statement at the start of your tariff policy. I mean, was it really that necessary to tariff Penguin Island or put a 10% tariff on Ukraine for some reason because of one of their trade policies towards us that I'm not familiar with? Or the Vietnamese 90% assessed tariff rate that is not in at all relation to their tariff rate because they had an existing tariff rate of 1.1%. So if this was done with a little bit more clarity so you could show where the American interests lie, and it was done, I think, with more coordination with American allies, we might have actually been able to get more concessions. But I think what we're going to end up finding is that there'll be a few states that probably concede a certain amount up front to avoid the whole crisis. But I think the majority of nation states are not going to make big concessions, and I don't think it's going to be worth it. Not because it was impossible that we could use tariffs effectively, but I think the president might actually poison the word tariff as a potential tool for future presidents through his misuse of them, and that's my fear.
Well, that's one guess, but at the end of the day, we're starting to see a lot of results. We got 40 deals on the table, 18 coming out within the next 2 weeks.
40 deals on the table isn't a result. It means you're having a conversation. As you can see with this conversation with the Russians, nothing's signed until it's signed.
Okay, so, yeah, you're right, but so what? It's working towards something.
I'm saying we don't have a result.
You're
yet,
making
so
a
we can't judge it.
prediction.
I am making a prediction, and we have to wait.
I'm making a prediction as well. This is also my prediction as well.
Okay. Good. All right. Cool. Good. Okay. All right. So we got his prediction. Dylan, why don't you go ahead and tell him where to find you, what you do, and we'll just go start closing from there.
You can find me in the general Donetsk area. If you want to find my work, you can find it.
Don't tell them that.
You can find it. You can find it. Dylan Burns
what's your
TV on
Latin long?
YouTube. I'm releasing a documentary this Saturday, embedded with Skaval, which are Ukrainian convict units. Basically, they're soldiers from the Ukrainian prison system who have signed contracts for their freedom in exchange for military service. And I talk to them about their experience, the nature of the contracts, what they're going through, finding some of the hardest parts at the front. So people want to go check that out, they can. Also released an article 3 days ago with Offbeat Research, interviewing a deserter from the Ukrainian Armed Forces from the 155, if anybody wants to read that.
Hell yeah, that's awesome. That's cool stuff. Well, I'll definitely check it out. Tyler, go ahead.
Average debate enjoyer. Again, you can check out my citation document. Everything that's blued out is stuff I mostly got to today. There was a lot I didn't get to as well. I tried to address people. I'm going to leave that off the bottom there. But otherwise, I really think we kind of agreed generally. We disagreed on specifics. Everyone agreed we need to stand up and push away the extremists. It's just we disagree with what the extremists are. I say it started at gender theory. Other people are saying it started with terrorist support for Palestine. So whatever. We're disagreeing on what the bar is. I'm using polling data and other people are using FIFI. So I think that I kind of took the W and I. Otherwise, come check me out. Thanks for the hype train. And Gibbs' panel coming up after this is a lot more fun. Stick around for that shit.
All right. Well, all panels are fun. Thank you so much for being here. Nina, go ahead.
My bad. All lives matter, Gibbs.
Okay. I'm on twitch.tv/Nina, Neeina. I know it's spelled weird. Thank you so much for inviting me on this panel. I think that we had a relatively productive conversation, except our boy over here who seem to want to talk about some unrelated shit. But I just to kind of do like a cap on it, I think that we are a lot in agreement on that the messaging needs to get better. We need to work towards that. And I hope we can have more conversations like this in the future, because I actually was really excited for this. And I wasn't really expecting it to be particularly combative, and it wasn't really. But I'd want to do something like this again if you're ever up to it.
Fantastic. Yeah, I'm sure this is a convo that we can come back to. I know a lot of people had opinions and have been messaging me since we're going on, so I'm sure it'll be one that we can come back to in the future for sure. I'm sure that everybody's gonna be talking about it going forward. It's a pretty important convo. Shenandoah.
Hi, my name's Chairman Shenandoah. I stream on Twitch, and I'm fucking slowly building up my YouTube. Fucking nice to meet you guys. I was actually really happy to be here. Fucking great company. And I don't know, I'm just gonna restate my point. Media environment's fucked. And Democrat leadership is weak, and I want them to get some fucking balls. And that's it. I mean, fuck it. Yeah, I'm happy with that.
Yeah, he wants them to be less soy pills. So let's go to soy pill.
Yeah, like I said at the beginning, I think that this is a huge media narrative. Democrats are playing it way too safe. They think it's still 2016, where if they say a bad no word, that they're going to get canceled. And to a degree, it's true, because we have people that are going to call them out, but they need to stop being scared of it and start acting more like not Donald Trump's policies, but Donald Trump's media messaging, which is, I don't give a shit if one particular person calls me out. I'm going to say what resonates with most people. I'm going to be more authentic. And yeah, I agree. We do need a better primary process. We don't need to insert Kamala Harris 3 months before the election. She was not ready for that, and I don't think it worked very well. Agree with Dylan that we need someone a little more, not so toothless. But that the thing is, as much as I want more healthcare and more progressive policies, it seems to me that we don't necessarily need to be promoting a more Bernie-style campaign. We just need better messaging on those policies, and then we can start talking about whether or not we can pull people over to a Medicare for all. But yeah, we need to address the working class. We need to address healthcare prices. We need to talk about the things that fucking matter, and we're not doing it. Although I will say the DNC has reached out to me and other influencers to try to figure out what the fuck went wrong. So at least they know they fucked up. I'm the Soy Pill. You can find me at the Soy Pill at YouTube. I make video essays.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. And Mr. Wick.
Wick TV on YouTube, Twitch, Kick. Got some great things coming up. On Monday, I'll be teaming up with Pisco to debate the Misfit Patriot and Sean Farash on whether or not Trump is the greatest threat to the First Amendment, in America at least, that we've seen in a generation. I think he is, and I think I have a very strong case to make. Check us out then. It should be fun. Monday, it'll be later in the night, right? 9 o'clock instead of my normal time. That should be fun. As to the matter at hand, Dems, just stop focus grouping shit. Just be a little more fucking human, okay? Be a little more fucking genuine. I think it'll be okay. We need to push out the extremism, show that we are the party that cares about people and not fucking ideologues, okay? And I think we'll be fine. I love you all. That's me.
All right. Well, yeah, that's fantastic. Thank you all for coming. Yeah, I look forward to more conversations in the future.
I know I said collab more, but JFC. Okay, sorry, Danabo. I'm gonna collab more. Okay, people message me. I'll respond. DylanBurnsTV@gmail.com.